Right, we will start the workshop tonight, January 22nd, 2024. It's probably going to be a longer evening with a lot of good and welcome conversations. We'll get right into it. Had a couple of commissioners ask us to bring the street scanning back up for y'all's discussion, so I'll ask Eric to present on that.
Sure. So this is basically the same presentation, maybe a little abbreviated to aid in maybe a little less confusion. So specifically, it's Street Scan, and then also the software that goes with it is the Street Logics. So high-level overview is doing a 3-year project. The first step is to come in with the equipment and scan our roads. This is their equipment. They own it. We're not buying any scanning equipment. They'll send out an employee that does this 5 days a week all over the country. They'll scan our streets. And what that'll look like is a high-resolution video feed of in front, behind, and the sides. They come in and they do that one time, and that's good for about 3 years is what they've found with what they do. In that video footage, they can see street conditions, traffic signs, and pavement markers. Once they have all that video footage, they then take that, put it on their server, and then they have experts that go in and evaluate everything they see in that video. If they see potholes, if they see cracking, if they see pavement markings that are distorted, not in great condition, and they add a score to it, 0 to 100. Those numbers are then put into the PCI, which helps us evaluate what that road's condition is and what the best repair method is. Some roads, if they're low enough, 60 and below, they just need total reconstruction. But in that 60 to 90 range, there's a lot of different treatments that can be done to extend the life of that road. And that's what the main purpose of this software is to do. With the asset management software that we would be purchasing that comes with it, allows us a tool to go into that program, see what roads end to end, what their scores are, where we've paved in the last couple of years, and focus what we're going to do for the next 5 years. It takes away the guessing game. It takes away any question of, well, why are you paving on that side of town? Well, in times past, it's, well, we think that side of town needs it the most. Now, we can justify and say this is exactly what we're going to do for the next 3 to 5 years based off of what this program is saying, based off of what we're going out and physically looking at it. This is justification for what we need to do. The pricing on this is based off of Hamilton County's project. Because they have so many road miles, we're getting a decent discount, the same price they are, due to weather, their own employee illnesses and stuff. They still are able to offer that to us, even though that happened several months ago. They've not actually rolled out yet. It was going to be the 1st of January, and then they had an employee get sick and all that. So timeline-wise, we're still able to piggyback off of Chattanooga's 3-year price. Like the slide says, industry standard is collect the conditions every 3 to 4 years. So this is a 3-year proposal with the plan on, if everything works great, we really are liking this program, we would rescan in 3 to 4 years.
So in the long run, but this, I'm sorry, is it okay for me to ask questions?
Mhm.
Kind of in a rough estimate, I know you can't say exactly, how much would it maybe save us in the long run?
So
It would be more of an optimization of the funding we have now.
Right.
The software also allows you to do predictions if you increase or decrease those funding levels on what your resultant score would be.
Yeah.
But our initial thought, if we did this for the next 3 years, would be to optimize what we're spending.
Okay.
Right. So in years past, we've spent between $500 and $1 million on paving. Depending on which projects we're doing, whether it's a mill and pave or just an overlay, we will probably get between 1.25 miles to 1.5 miles of pavement. What this is going to allow us to do is still get that mile-ish of pavement, but also do at least several $100,000 of preventative to, instead of just doing repave,
Mhm.
also get into some of our subdivisions and other stuff and do alternate treatments to extend the life of those. So basically stretching our dollars.
Okay.
We're never going to not repave roads, but this lets us say, okay, if we have usually $600,000, but we need to budget $800,000 this year, that $200,000 can get us another 1.5 miles, 2 miles of treatment, which would then take care of a whole entire subdivision or a secondary road.
Okay. Thank you.
So that's a picture of the car that they would come out and drive our streets with. It kind of looks like a similar car to what Google Earth uses, just a lot higher resolution cameras and a lot more data. This is a view of the StreetLogic software. What that basically does is allows us to go in and just click on a street, and it tells us this street is 3.5 miles long, and it's an index of this. With this package, also puts that into our GIS map that we have all of our sewer and stuff in, to where if we do, it allows us to access it not only through this, but also the mapping system we already have, to where we can, if we have sewer projects that we've done, we can tie that into our paving to know, okay, hey, we just did this sewer project. We probably need to look at repaving because we've tore up the road and done some patching, that type of thing. It'll also let us tie into, we have a snowplow map. We just revised it. Chris spent a lot of time over this past week revising our snow map. This allows us to actually generate routes and know kind of how much time we're spending on that and what it looks like and all that kind of stuff. So it's very versatile. It has great budgeting tools. We had a hour-long session with Kim Romer, the representative for StreetLogic, and it's very powerful software that we can use for budgeting and planning.
How many commissioners asked for this to be brought back up?
I've had 2 specifically reach out to me.
I had 2, so that's why I brought it up.
I'm still a no. With this many capital projects on our list, I don't see this being the best use of our tax dollars.
This would be a capital investment, would it?
This would come out of paving.
Hey,
We'd take it out of that, typically 600,000 a year. So with the 18 and some change would come out of that.
that's what I was thinking.
So that's really not part of this
No,
sheet
ma'am.
that you gave us.
The sheet I gave you are general fund or savings investment projects.
Okay.
I'm sorry to make it sound like that's what I was referring to. I'm just talking about money in general.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
but to your point,
I
it's only so much,
I
right?
asked for it to come back up because I'm a believer in this. I mean, so I know a lot of people in our community thinks, and Eric does, he gets out and drives the roads, he knows what the roads look like, but this gives him a better insight, more of what he can actually see on the surface. And it also gives him the ability to really kind of come to us and say, here's what we have to do. And one may be, we've got to increase the budget by X dollars to do this because we have 3 roads that are in terrible shape. And each of them will cost us $500,000 or a little bit more. So, I mean, I think that's a good tool for us. I mean, I trust what Eric does because he does get out and drive. He knows a lot of the roads, but he cannot see everything this does. And if for some reason Eric was out, I don't know, got hit by the school bus or the excavator or whatever.
Let's
think-
not ponder that situation.
Yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
it still gives, we have the tool and it's got data that it will support.
Right.
From that perspective. And I know we talked earlier about Eric did a lot of the work on Edgemond Road that saved money from the overall project. And I think to me, that's a good use of the funds to pay for this. I know it's a 3-year contract.
Right.
And we may not do it after 3 years, or we could. I mean, that's
Right.
That's why I asked for it.
I just feel like at any time, being the public works, to tell us the worst 5 streets in the city and list for next.
Right, and so that is total. The beauty of this software is it takes fixing the worst road and fixing more roads. If we're just stuck on that pave and replace system, we're going to be spending more money than we need to. This software is by far going to save us money and increase the conditions of our roads for all citizens.
So are you saying you would divert money from paving something that is on the worst list and pave something or fix something instead of paving our worst case scenarios?
If that's what makes the best sense for that budget year, then yes.
The purpose of the software is the maintenance optimization.
Mm.
So sometimes you need a new engine in your car, sometimes you just need to change the oil. And the budgeting tools within the software are for us to know when to add some treatments to the road to extend the life, to kick the can, if you will, on when we have to mill and pave. Mill and paving is the best repair. It's also by far the most expensive. So the goal would be to continue what we're doing now, but add in a mixture of, because frankly, right now, we're not repaving subdivisions most of the time because they don't have enough trips and we can't prioritize the budget. We're focusing on the busier roads. Our hope would be, if we went with something like this, is that we could add in those treatments on subdivision roads and lower ADT streets to extend their life before they completely fail. Was that a complete answer to your question, or did I answer not your question?
I understand your argument.
So you're doing more of it's kind of like a preventive to a degree, projecting ahead and using a little bit of wisdom. I too asked to see it because unfortunately I had to leave early that night because I got ill. That's the reason. I don't know when Tim did it, but I went, I think, just 2 or 3 days afterwards. And I said, I'd like to see this. I wasn't here. I had to leave. And so I asked also for it to come ahead. I didn't know at the time that the mayor, my vice mayor, was looking at it. I'm always for preventive because preventive saves in the long run. Okay. And I have no doubt of your experience and living out here for the years that I have, that you know the streets. And we've always had to prioritize, especially the main streets that everybody uses all the time. I think this is a good program in sort of that you can utilize, like you said, having more money to do what needs to be to restore it, to keep it going, I like your analogy about between the oil and having to replace the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it. I think you gave an excellent. Are you through? Is that
I
it?
believe there's one more slide
Okay.
that talks about like next steps and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So next steps is go through the proposal and bring it up at the next commission meeting for a vote. Doing the GIS mappings and the layers built by their team. Schedule the scan for them to come out and do it. And process the scan back at their facility. And then within 90 days, we'll be up and running. Hopefully before this next budget cycle is fully executed, we'll have a pretty good game plan. I mean, we already have one based on what we did last year, what we're looking for next year. But if we need to make some adjustments for that, this would be beneficial to be able to do that with.
Okay. Mass, what is it going to cost us to get started with this?
$18,714, I believe,
For 3 years.
for three,
For 3
Yeah,
years.
that amount every three.
8,730.
for the next 3
For
years.
each year for the next 3 years.
Okay.
I'm sorry, was that much for each year for the next 3 years or
Yes.
just for 3 years?
That amount for the next 3 years, each
Each
year.
year.
So total was like 57,000.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Over there.
My concern when you brought it up was you kept talking about, well, we can add this package and we can add that package, and I began to see it ballooning. And I don't think we had enough time to really understand what it was about. So I think that it's good that it's here tonight so that we can talk about it a little bit more than we normally would if we were at the commission meeting. So I appreciate you bringing it back and educating us a little bit more.
Sure, you're very welcome.
I like the ability for you to integrate with GIS and our snow routes and stuff like that, from that perspective as well.
I also think because we are growing, I think this is a tool that'll be very useful. And because we're going to have more pavement, we're going to have to keep up with, I think let's say I've been out in college now 20 years and just got paved maybe a year or 2 years ago. Because that's when it needed it,
Right.
I think it probably, like I said, help keep track of the preventive of it.
Yeah, we've got a lot of subdivisions that were built in the early 2000s, and they're all getting into that 20 to 25-year range. And some of them have held up better than others. And we're at a tipping point to where this is going to be an extremely useful tool based on current conditions, age of a lot of our secondary and residential roads.
Well, as you know better than any of us here in the room, if you don't maintain asphalt, you're going to lose it.
Yep.
So I think this is a good tool for diagnosing the health of the asphalt, what the conditions are, where priorities need to be.
And I look at it too, if you look at the last, 5 years maybe, what you spent trying to get a project of paving and being able to present it to the city manager and knowing what needs to be done. You put a lot of time and effort into it.
Mhm.
And so do you get feedback from your team as well? I think that what I like is you have it systematic available for you.
Right.
And I like the point that you talked about, you have an image of it, it's high resolution. And so I also look at the time, because you're a hands-on manager, director, you get out there and you're in the weeds with them. I applaud you for that, but I think that this is a good thing for us to have a tool.
Okay.
Well, if there's no more discussion, we'll move on to the next item. That is the departmental capital project presentations. We'll work our way around like we did last year. These are kind of where our heads are as we're going into the budget cycle. I would ask you to speak up if you agree or disagree or have thoughts department by department, and then we'll go from there. And I'll start with Jason.
So my name is Jason Allen. I'm the staff planner for the City of Collegedale. You just want to hit next? Yeah, absolutely.
Just, we'll audible this one.
Hit
Yeah.
next.
Technology. Maybe it's the laptop.
So this year's current budget is 2023, 2024. That's $142,082. Full-time staff is myself, is one person. Next slide.
Are you looking for a part-timer?
Currently not yet. I'll get into a little bit more if we do see the same amount of cases or more next year, and that's probably something that we're going to be looking at.
So we had a major uptick this year by what, threefold,
Mhm.
300%, give or take. And so we're waiting to see if that's a blip or continued. Jason is keeping up at this level, but I think I have taxed him to about the level that's sustainable. If we tick up any more, we will need to entertain additional personnel. If we drop back down, because we had done, I want to say 3 years ago it was 4 subdivisions, and it was 5 subdivisions, and then this year it's been 15. So it's a huge swing. If we drop back down to probably what I would expect to be a more realistic expectation of 5 to 10 a year, we're probably okay for now. at our current staffing levels. But again, if we sustain this 15 plus a year, Jason's going to want to have a real frank conversation with me.
The difficult thing with that is state law. If we get a planning case on the 20th of the month, it has to go the next month. So you end up with 8 cases. You're doing 8 staff reports in a couple of weeks. So just to continue forward. So we hired a staff planner in September 2022 to fill the planning department vacancy. There was a couple of months where the planning department was empty. So single staff saw the following cases, and this is the most cases the planning department has received in recent years. 10 zoning cases, along with those 10 ordinances that go along with that, 15 subdivisions, 11 zoning letters, 2 board of zoning appeal cases, and 1 annexation. Staff initiated zoning ordinance rewrite in 2023 and is looking to complete the rewrite earlier than anticipated. Staff has renewed city social media accounts since hiring. Facebook actually saw an increase of 3,000 followers since the end of 2022, and we saw a lot of increased engagement. Staff was able to secure the TAP tree grant through the state, and staff is currently finishing up ArcGIS training through the University of Tennessee of Chattanooga. Next. So here's a couple action items. We are looking to complete the zoning ordinance rewrite this year. That was started last year. So we're about 6 months to a year ahead of that. Get it next. Oh, there it goes. So that, I think the latest we'll finish that is August of this year. Just looking forward, we want to go into the rewriting the subdivision regulations, just to catch that up and match our new zoning regulations once that's completed. And we're probably looking to start that in 2025 to 2026, and that should take probably 6 months to a year. That'll be a lot faster than the zoning rewrite. After that, we are coming up to 2030, if you could believe it or not. So we do need to look at rewriting that land use plan that the city currently has. And we're looking at starting that in 2027 and hopefully finishing up by 2029. Just another ongoing action item is to further increase social media presence. Social media is going really good. I feel like we've really changed the look of our Facebook and Instagram through photos and images. And we just recently added a drone to that. And then College Del Chamorro Foundation, that is still ongoing, basically just to infinity.
So on the subject of the College Del Tomorrow Foundation, I'm still working with the foundation and some donors to figure out the maintenance aspect of the Little Debbie Park. We currently give $118,000 a year to the College Del Tomorrow Foundation for maintenance at both facilities, and we're projecting to spend a little bit more than $220,000 at Little Debbie Park this year. The city, even if we found that total amount, we can't give that to the foundation because it would exceed 1/3 of the foundation. So that's why I'm working with those folks to find a middle ground. I do expect our contribution will go up this year. If we can't find that middle ground, then Public Works will end up needing to take over the park, which will mean the additional staff. And it will not really be a cost savings by the time we pay for benefits and that sort of thing. So we're kind of in a rock and a hard place situation, and I'll have to brief you as those conversations go further and I get a little more detail over the next month or so. But just understand they are going on and are going to have either an increase to the College Del Tomorrow Foundation budget line item or additional staff budget line item. But there's going to be an expenditure.
So what is that maximum contribution?
So his final budget was just under 600,000. So that would put us in the $160,000 to $180,000 range ish. So, and that was preceding year. The totality of the park, that number, they'll exceed the 600, but it just can't all, more than a third can't come from us. So.
What happened to the strategic plan?
We are focusing on the subdivision rewrite and then the land use plan. The strategic plan we need to do as well. I would like to find some space to look at that about a year from now, after we get done with the zoning rewrite and start looking into the subdivision redesign and how each of those look. And I'm also waiting to see the final product from these consultants. So far, they've been great to work with. And they, as you remember, were priced effectively. And so if their product's good, then that might free up some funds to start looking into our strategic plan and figuring out exactly what we want to do with it that way. The other bids for just the zoning rewrite, and I expect the same on the subdivision, were huge in comparison.
Just seems like we need one to direct us in what direction we want the city to go.
I'm absolutely, I can send back out commission SWOT analysis. We can do those again and use that to help feed some
But
of this.
that's very different than a 5-year strategic plan or a 10-year strategic plan, a SWOT analysis.
We to date don't have a strategic plan. You're thinking of the 2030 plan that's about to expire, I believe. The one that Kelly presented?
All I know is I've been asking to see one for 2 or 3 years now.
Would you like that to prioritize over the subdivision regulations?
Pardon?
Would you like that as a priority over the subdivision regulations?
I just think that we as a city need to have a discussion about where we want to go and what, I mean, these projects are very good to know what you want to do, but I think we need to be able to see where are we going with the city.
Okay. So I guess I have the same question for the entirety of the commission. Would you prefer us to jump on the strategic plan rather than a subdivision ordinance rewrite? Because if that's what the commission wants, then we'll put that in place of it and we'll start working in that direction. I agree with you. We need a plan. We were focused on nuts and bolts, if you will, of our subdivision ordinance just because it's so antiquated. But it's band-aided together. It can stay band-aided if that's the direction the commission wants to go.
Yeah, I kind of thought we did have a strategic plan somewhere.
That's the 2030 plan.
Is that the
That's
Four
what Kelly did.
Corners?
The Four Corners plan from the 90s or the one that's going on now?
From the 90s.
I don't know what they called that. It was not a citywide strategic plan. It was real similar to the analysis the foundation's doing right now.
I agree with them.
I mean, it's different from our land use because we had a strategic plan and then we made up a land use plan, which probably needs to be redone, which is on his list.
Right.
But I really think we need to get started on one.
Okay.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I
I would
think
agree.
so.
Then we'll look at the steps to that.
I want to see it before I go out of office in November.
I can get you SWOT analysis by then.
No, I don't want a SWOT analysis. I want a strategic plan.
Maybe we do need to do that.
So what I'm getting from the commission is that you would prefer us to move in the direction of a strategic plan over a subdivision rewrite.
At this point, yes.
That's what I'm getting. So Jason, if you'll note that in your stuff, and we'll start after we get through budget, seeing what that process exactly looks like and that sort of thing.
So before we run off, Jason, I think our social media has definitely changed and I think we're getting out there more and stuff.
Mhm.
The one thing I don't like is we don't have an app for the Collegedale website.
Okay.
I thought we were working on one when Ethan was here. I don't know what happened to it.
That, I'm unaware. I mean, that'd be more the IT.
We were working on one. Nothing ever came of it. Those details, exactly what happened, I don't know.
Are we on the same platform as when we started this or are we on a different platform?
I'm not sure I understand.
So underneath every website, there's a platform that's built on. Was this the same one that we
This
built?
is a new one. We were on Civic Plus.
Yeah, and we
Same
rolled over
So I thought.
4
that-
years ago.
Yeah, 4 or 5. And Red Branch was the one that did the app. And I believe it did get up and running and then it fell flat on its face.
Like after a few weeks,
Yeah,
wasn't
it
it?
did.
Yeah, and then Red Branch.
I think we need to figure it out because, I mean, when I'm looking on my phone, it's not user friendly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, you can, but I mean, it's an app.
The
Everybody-
website.
Everybody's got phones these days. A lot of people have iPads and apps would be great on it.
We've actually had a vendor email the 5 of us in the past couple weeks. It's the same person that downtown is using. I think they've been wanting to talk to us while they were out in this area because they could get things to talk together between the different courts and,
Will one of you send that to me?
And is this mostly concerning the website or?
Yeah, for the
Facebook?
website, yeah,
Okay.
so instead of having to go out there and type collegedaletn.gov. I'd
Yeah,
just click-
I could look into trying to make the website more user-friendly online too, or on your mobile device. 'Cause that's probably the main issue right now.
For me, it is.
Yeah, okay. So, but I'll see if I can reach out to
Yeah.
the developers and see if they can
Yeah.
help us update.
Okay, that would be good. But we're not talking about 311 integration, that sort of thing, are we?
No.
That is much easier than all of those integrations. Okay, we'll add that to the list and report back. And please, yeah, if you'll forward me that email on to Jason and I.
I think they're called GovApp is their name, but I'll look.
Okay.
I thought I forwarded it to the IT person. When I
Tom?
got it, yeah.
Tom and I have not discussed it, but that could be because I didn't bring it up.
Okay, because if I remember correctly when I got it, because I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I forwarded it because I figured to
Mhm.
him to look at.
Okay.
I never heard anything back, but so,
I
We'll,
actually had the guy track me down downtown wanting to talk about it. He's
Really?
like, I've emailed y'all. Are you going to email me back?
then we'll put that on our radar and we'll let Jason run point on it for us.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Thanks, appreciate it. All right, so Parks and Recreation, for this past budget, we had $167,500. That does include the city's $20,000 contribution to the Collegedale Rec Association as well. We currently have one full-time staff member. I start interviews tomorrow. So over the holidays, we did lose our recreation specialist has returned to the medical field. So we'll get back up to two staff here shortly. Just the highlights that we have is staff went to both NRPA and TRPA conferences this year, brought back a whole bunch of great ideas and things that we're trying to put into play here in Collegedale. I won't really go off of everything that's up here, but just trying to get out there more in the public, get more partners with our local businesses and get them involved as much as possible. Because you've probably heard me say it a million times is, you know, my job is to build a stronger and a better community here. So we've got to make those connections. So that's what we're going to continue to do. That's a list. You guys all received this as well, a list of all of our programs and events. I probably left a few out, but that's the majority of it. We did up our yearly participation. I think when I looked at it, it was up by 4,000 participants. So, of course, some of the things, you know, have fizzled out where it ran its popularity. And so we'll be trying new things. It's a constant in Parks and Recreation is trying to figure out what the trends are. So we'll have some changes coming up in the new year, trying out some new events and programs. My action items, of course, first thing is to hire a new program specialist. We are working on doing some updates around the pickleball court. So like the signage, we actually, I've got that to you from Sam, all the rules that we'll bring forward to the commission to have you guys approve.
Next meeting. So in 2 weeks.
Yes.
That ordinance will come to you, which is, can't update the signage till we have something to tie it to.
Exactly. So once that's approved, then we'll work on getting new signage on the court there. We are working on getting a sunshade over the bleachers and stuff at the court to help during the summertime. You mentioned website earlier. That's been something of mine that I don't like the kind of theme that the original developers gave us. I don't think it really works. So I've been talking with the rec desk folks that do our registration software with our programs and our rentals, where everything is done online. And they have a way that I can actually integrate all of that and have our website all in one place, at least for Parks and Recreation. I have looked at the town of Farragut. If you guys want to take a chance to look at the town of Farragut, their website is all off of Rec Desk. And so everything matches. You don't have a different template for Parks and Rec versus the main city or for registration. Everything matches and it's beautiful.
Is that suggesting that we switch to a different website provider entirely?
So I'm not sure exactly what all goes in with that because I don't even know how to get a hold of Red Branch or whoever it is. I have no idea how to be like, hey, I need to edit this. So I'm just looking at options of ways that I could approve on mine, but if we're able to pull in the whole city, I would love to be able to do that as well.
If you need to, can you get those people to come back to the city that when they launched it, they trained all the department heads how to update the website? Because I feel like we're probably paying some kind of support fee and we should stick it to them.
We're not paying support.
Or any kind of hosting fee that comes
And
with
I don't
support.
think they ever came, did they train you guys? They
I've
didn't. train.
never seen them.
They didn't train.
The website that's up right now that
Yeah.
Kelly
Well, the
Martin
website
helped
that's up
facilitate.
right now, they did come in and do some training
Yeah.
classes, but it wasn't Red Branch.
Right.
Red Branch was the mobile app.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
The website was a different company.
Is it
Yours
Revise?
is Revise.
Or
Yeah.
Mine is still
Revise,
ran off of Red.
Right.
Branch, so.
So there's, yeah.
The Parks and Rec
So
website
it's
is Red Branch.
piecemeal.
It's piecemealed, because Parks and Rec under the previous staff
Yeah, yours is.
created their own Parks and Rec website. And that's what we've inherited. And that's different than the revised website that the city has that Kelly updated. And we can find those folks and present a better solution.
So does that mean we're paying for like different hosting for the city website, Parks and Rec, and the airport instead of just having everybody on the same?
Mine is actually on its own. Like we pay a monthly fee for our own.
Okay, that
through a
makes sense
company up
for
in
you.
Nixon, but
As far as Red Branch goes, we haven't paid them in years and years and years
Okay.
for the revise. But the Red Branch, we haven't. And that's what unfortunately Parks and Rec is sort of stuck because they're by themselves with the Red Branch.
When they set it up, they probably bought their domain name.
Mhm.
So there's no maintaining fee. It's just you own your domain name 10, 5, 10, 15 years, whatever you purchase it for. And then you maintain it yourself. So there's no yearly cost for it. It's probably
Yeah,
how
because
they
I
set
don't
it up.
have anything that I pay yearly for it.
No.
So, but so that's good to have that conversation because ever since I came on board, I wanted to make that change. So that's a big one that hopefully I'll be able to get everything rolling by the end of this new year. We're the same as with Jason with increasing our social media reach, views, likes, and shares, which we have on Instagram and Facebook alike. With trying to get more, doing more contests and whatnot online to get our name out there a little bit more. I just re-upped on my CPRP certification. That's Certified Recreation and Parks Professional. And so that's good for another 2 years. We went out for a grant to do an upgrade to the sandbox because if you visit around Chattanooga area, no other park has a sandbox because everybody said that's just where the cats use the restroom. Well, we have kept ours and it gets used quite a bit. However, there's no place for seating. So the upgrade includes benches for the adults, the grandparents stuff that are bringing the kids. So that they can sit there, watch the kids, as well as having the shade structure over top of it. So it's not blistering hot for the kids to play. So we went out for a grant, did not receive it. However, we're going to continue looking for ways to pay for that. Again, going to keep going for the Blue Cross Healthy Places grant to see if we can get an upgrade to the Thatcher switch. Did not receive that grant. However, we did just make a change and we're able to add mountain biking beginner ramps, I guess you can call them. So for those that are wanting to learn mountain biking without going up to the very top of the biology trails and then having to carry the broken bike down, they can go out there and get some practice in. And it's really cool and good for kids to get an idea of what it's like going downhill a little bit and whatnot. So that just went out there at Thatcher Switch Park, just to add something else on that side as well. The community mural, been looking at ways for us to partner with Sherwin-Williams on doing an upgrade to the underneath here with the greenway under Abson Pike. I've gotten some folks that have said that it seemed kind of dreary. So I figure why not see if we can get something together with putting some bright paint in there and see if we can lighten it up some. But again, it's another way to get the community involved. We've not been able to get into to the schools yet to utilize their gyms, but I wanted to put that back on my list to continue trying to see if we can make that connection. There are different things that I want to get involved with. I know SAP's involved with like the elk hoop shoot stuff, as well as we can do indoor sports. So I want to work with them to see if we can get in with them.
Are they letting you know what obstacles are prohibiting
It's
relationship?
a rental. It's a rental issue, basically. Unless they have a staff member there, they won't let us use it. And so staff doesn't want to be there when they're outside of school hours. It's been mentioned about doing a citywide 5K. And then the last thing, of course, is the accessible merry-go-round Imagination Station, which I believe is added on to Eric's stuff.
We're trying to roll that into the Imagination Station remodel, if that gets approved by the commission.
I've been pushing for that one for years.
Yes.
I know, you've been wanting.
Hey, before we leave, so I've been meaning to ask this for quite some time. So of all the programs we have in Park and Rec, and I'll use the Wizard because that has been a pain point for some of my friends. Do you keep track of how many people are in the city versus outside the city?
I
for
do
that?
not.
We probably should, because I'm going to tell you, when a city resident cannot get their kids in it because we got a limited number, it doesn't sit well for some of the residents.
Okay.
Would it be possible, and I'm just brainstorming, we could open up registration for, say, a week for residents exclusively, and then after that, open it up for the community? Would that be possible?
Well,
Or offer it more times.
I personally feel like specialized things like that is for the city residents versus outside the city.
And I'd like to see what, maybe for 3 months, Parks and Rec do a survey like the library did for us, where it showed like less than 1 in 5 participants was a resident.
The-
They're
Well,
just surveying at the event. Just something simple, raise your hand if you live in the city, explaining what the city is, because not everybody understands. And take
Well, that's where I'm
it.
going with it, because
Right.
I sit up here
Yeah.
with Christy all the time, and people don't know if they're in the city or not. And I mean, you can be in Ooltewah, McDonald, or Appleton and still be in the city, and very few actually in Collegedale.
Ask them if they got a blue trash can.
You might
We-
just have to get their addresses and then do, after the event, look to see if that
The-
address.
The trash can approach would be accurate enough.
There you go.
I honestly feel like,
Yeah, that's big.
I think if you're having people register for this, right?
Mhm.
They have to put in their address.
Correct.
We should be able to tell who they are. I mean, if you're putting that in the system somewhere,
I would have to go in manually to still look and see if an address is
Yeah.
in city limits or not, though.
But you can, well, you can ask the question, can't you?
If you-
If
you
Are you
put it
Collegeville
on a
resident?
Paper, I can just look.
Or,
I
yeah,
know.
exactly.
I know.
Print
And
the
then the other
list,
thing-
you got
the other
police
thing
and
is, like,
public works.
If you got a blue trash can, you're in the city.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, that's,
Are you volunteering to come and ask everybody that?
I think it needs to be on the form that you complete now. It is. I mean, we're providing a lot of services outside the city, and some of the city people cannot get in these programs. So,
Mhm.
We'll find a way to survey it.
Yeah, we
And
can.
we'll put together some data.
And if you need me to do it, I'll be glad to help. What if you come up with, I don't mind asking.
I mean, you should be able to take a database and a pivot
Yeah.
table and say, this is in the city, yes,
Mhm,
in Excel or some database.
mhm.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I mean, your programs are wildly popular, but I would agree with the vice mayor. We need to provide services to our citizens first.
Mhm.
I think they need to be given priority.
Okay.
And because they do, as you know, they fill up and then people can't get in them.
Yeah.
So let me ask you another couple of questions.
Yeah.
Where are we on your new facility, the old ambulance station?
It's there. That's where I go every day. We just have to move, all of the storage stuff over, but obviously between losing staff and then the weather and vehicle usage and all that, I just haven't gotten everything over yet. But-
Okay, so
But I am in there.
it's functioning and you're
Yes.
using it? and-
Yes.
Okay,
The bathrooms are very popular because I hear it every time the door opens.
yeah. Well, second question I've got, you and I have spoken in the past about doing something with the airport
Mhm.
because the people of Collegedale need to realize this is their airport.
Right.
And I really want to continue pushing for us to do something. Maybe it's a movie night. We did a movie night. We've talked about that. We did the movie night 3 or 4 years ago
Mhm.
and the place was full.
Mhm. And-
And we need to get kids out there. We need to let them see what this is all
Right.
about.
Right. And me and Ryan have spoken a couple times on ways to do stuff out there. Of course, with movie nights, we have to make sure that we have a movie license, which is not cheap. We actually took our outdoor classroom program. We took the kids out to the airport to get a
Yeah, they had an
tour.
airport tour
Yeah.
a number of months back. That was very popular.
Yeah.
There was a very good turnout for that. But yeah, we have discussed, different ideas back and forth. I know we've talked about one in the springtime,
Spring.
maybe one in the fall, whether, like you say, a movie night or like an open house event, something like that. My biggest thing is when we plan it, I would preferably like it to be a perpetual event. So to do so, I think we need to take time to plan it properly so that it does, get a lot.
Well, I would agree, but let's go ahead and start planning.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're into a new year and
Mhm.
let's get this ball rolling.
Yeah, I think we were shooting for the end of April
Yeah.
this year, so we'll see what we can come up with.
Okay,
So
great.
the library has been streaming movies. They did a Taylor Swift concert and I think a Disney. Is that license something we can piggyback off
No,
of?
it is not.
Christina's checked on that, yeah.
It is not. Their license only allows them to show movies within their facility, and they're only allowed to show it to their patrons. So I have tried the whole, hey, we own it. It's on our property. Imagination Station, that's our property.
Mhm.
They ex-nayed me.
Okay.
So we have looked into it. And I know I'm looking to do a movie in the park this spring, summer. And I've already got a local business that's actually going to pay for the license to do it because you have to pay for them individually. Ahead of time, you have to put in an application to be able to show movies. So, but it is in the works.
How much is that?
They can run between $300 to $750.
We're talking 300 to 750,
300 to
3,000 or
I'm sorry, 300 to 750. Depends on the popularity, how old it is, all that stuff.
For just one,
For a one-time show.
for each, okay.
There are plans that are blanket plans where you can show so many in a year. But getting actual
Yeah.
amounts for those have been difficult.
I think you should show Top Gun out there.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
Yeah, it would be
They'd
good.
love
We could
it.
have a marathon of the first two, and then the third one supposedly coming out next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm down.
All right, moving on to building and codes.
All right, as you can see, currently we're fiscal year 23, 24. Our budget's at 717,200. We have 4 full-time people, 4 part-time people. As y'all probably remember, John Gamble had retired in April, and it was just amazing having him on board. Some incredibly big shoes to fill. The replacement we hired for him, Sam Jenkins, has been just an extraordinary fit. He's worked out great. He's since gotten his commercial and residential plumbing inspector certification, his residential building certification, and still working on getting other certs. So he's, like I said, just jumped in full speed and just been a great fit. Pam Garrett's the one that we got to replace Christy Blackwell. Christy was full-time and she left us, and but we hired Pam in her place as a part-time replacement. As you can see, we've had some training. Jeff Heights, we hired to replace Sean McMahon. Sean McMahon was with us for a couple years, left, came back, but then Sean moved out to Missouri, and it was just such a bummer because he was a perfect fit personality-wise. He was a military veteran, and so just had a lot of experience with codes, was a great fit. But we got a great fit substitute, Jeff Heights. He comes from Florida. He's been a phenomenal fit. He had his property maintenance inspector certification. It lapsed. However, he was able to take some classes, and we got his certification reinstated. So now he's certified with his original property maintenance certification. So that's worked out well. Stephen Ledbetter, I just wanted to give kudos to him. He was gracious enough to help me. The two of us kind of tag teamed after Chris Swain left as a safety person. Him and I kind of tag teamed doing fire extinguisher checks, monthly panic, fire alarm, sprinkler alarm system checks, AED checks, those sort of things. So Stephen really went above and beyond, was great in helping me fill in until Lamar started in July with that position. I just want to give a really kudos as well to the whole building and codes team. Brittany Hutto, Sam Jenkins, Jeremy Greenleaf, and Jeff Heights all did a phenomenal job. It was rather cumbersome changing from our Intergov permit inspection code enforcement software over to iWork, but it's been a huge improvement. When we've had issues, to actually call someone, talk to someone on the phone, the responsiveness has been phenomenal versus Intergov. 2 to 4 hours we'd be on hold and oftentimes not even get an answer. There'd be days sometimes that we couldn't even log into the system. So it's been a great change. There's a component that's been enormously helpful for contractors and citizens where they can go onto our website, online portal to apply for permits. So there's been a lot of pros have been part of that iWork software we've transitioned to. So it's been great. The Parks and Rec office, as you can see, that remodel work was completed. City Hall parking lot light conversion to LED was completed. Between now and the end of this current fiscal year, we're going to finish like the lights above, these flat panel LED, we're going to finish the remainder of City Hall, transitioning to those. So it'll help from an energy saving standpoint, but also from a standpoint of not having to do a changing out light bulbs. Because it just, between that and ballast, it's definitely a big hassle. As you can see, right now we have in the works what we plan to incorporate tentatively. This current upcoming 24-25 fiscal year is in the back where we have our live stream currently set up. We want to get a permanent cabinet installed there where we can move the soundboard back there and be able to live stream meetings more efficiently than what we currently have. Right now it works, but it'll be a lot easier to just keep a computer in here rather than have to plug one in, unplug it each time we have our meeting. EDC, we're wanting to finish ever since we adding where it's consistent all the way from the elements. We want to paint the exterior of the Parks and Rec office is what we're hoping to do. Similar with the color scheme at City Hall. We want to see about installing security cameras at city buildings and facilities. I've named a few up there, and this is going to be an ongoing project. I've been working with Officer Booth, Chief Sapp, and Officer Herco on trying to come up with a strategy. We're probably going to do this in phases where it's a little bit more palatable financially and it's not as big a hit up at once.
Now, are those going to be all cameras that we own and control, not operated by a third-party vendor?
That's my understanding what we want to do. However, and Chief Sapp, I could speak to this, I think we're looking at going with Flock as far as like monitoring it.
That's exactly what I was getting at.
Yes, so that way at least there'd be cohesiveness with all the police cameras. that we have.
So people across the country would have access to our camera feed with the Flock.
When you mean people across the country,
Anyone that has the Flock system that could do the search database.
not unless we give them access to it.
Okay.
They would host our database.
They would host the database, but we have to give permission for our cameras for other agencies or whoever to be able to access our database. They can't do it without permission from us.
Is there a reason we don't want to just buy regular cameras that we have control of, that we own the hardware?
We're trying to optimize and as Andrew said, we've gone back and forth, trying to find a path. Because there are locations that we want cameras that something very simple, a Nest style camera would work. There are others like the Sallyport that we need a more robust, higher definition security style camera. And we're trying to find one server to keep the data so that we don't have multiples all over. And we have not gotten to the solution yet. And we're still working through exactly what that looks like. And with Flock hosting and us owning some of the cameras, that is the path that right now looks most palatable and appealing and functional. But we've not gotten any of the details worked out.
And we're wanting to work towards getting a cohesive, uniform solution. Right now, I think we have several different platforms over the years. There's been a progression of Veterans Park camera or City Hall parking lot cameras, but we're looking at trying to get a holistic solution that it'll all be on the same platform where the police can more effectively monitor, the safety of the
I think
citizens.
it's similar to what we were dealing with the in-car cameras in the patrol vehicles, where we had 3 different vendors and 3 different systems, 3 different servers. And so we're working towards, standardizing that as best we can. So it's a one-stop shop and we're not looking 3 places for 3 different things.
You're still going to have different programs because your dash cams are not going to be Flock cameras, right?
Well, but I'm talking about as specific to these security cameras. I'm comparing it that's similar. You've got 3 different types of software with 3 different kinds of cameras. Currently, we're trying to work to bring that down to one centralized system as best we can. So we won't have to dig through or use 3 different types of software and 3 different brands of cameras and all that sort of stuff.
Again, we are working on this. This became a much more complicated project than I'd initially envisioned, trying to find the right level of robustness in the cameras versus price and consolidating it down to one system.
Yeah, I'd like for us to see a search of different camera
Yep.
support. Just because I think that when we did Imagination Station or the Veterans Park, the police led that search for that. And it was because Chattanooga used them.
Mhm.
I don't even know if those cameras are any good anymore or what they look like when you look at the video of it.
So you can turn it on.
They're
I
on
just think that
currently.
there are a lot of technology places out. City manager, whoever, can assign station out to access that.
Yep.
And it would be laptops or whatever in the cars as well, if that's what we do.
It depends. Again, it gets very complicated very quickly, and we're trying to come up with a holistic solution that is reasonable. Initial pricing was frankly unreasonable. And so we've stepped back trying to pick the types of cameras and the hosting servers and the right level of security and on a location by location basis. And So it's still ongoing.
I've got a few things on there that are kind of tentative right now. A lot's going to be predicated on the direction of the commission, whether you all choose to do like a major remodel at the library. I've got conversion for LED lights, having a pull-down set of stairs to access that HVAC equipment more efficiently. So those things will be predicated on whether y'all want to do a major overhaul and remodel, or we're just going to focus on a few things. It's
Because I was going to ask, wasn't that approved for this year's budget and you're just putting it here like it's on hold until we decide what we're going to do with bigger
Yes.
plans?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that
yeah,
money
we-
hasn't been spent?
That's correct. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we wanted to hold off on that
We
just
were
because it
expanding
was still up in the air as to what the plans are for the
That-
library.
that's
at
up to
the will of
y'all.
The commission.
So to Commissioner Sadler's point, yes, we put it on pause to optimize expenditure. Once we get direction from the commission, if we're going forward with a remodel or not, if the answer is we're not, then we'll jump on these projects. If the answer is we are, we'll roll them into that remodel.
Okay, let me ask a quick question. I thought, I mean, you just explained it to me to a degree. I thought that we had already discussed that we were going to look at, because we have Parks and Recreation too, but we were going to look at expanding the library and that there were plans. I know there was some discussion about it. I thought we were, that it was supposed to be brought to us that we were, but I think the initial thing is what were we going to do as an expansion?
So that's part of my presentation as one of a couple of options.
Okay,
Um,
so I'm jumping ahead of the game.
Yes, yes. So the expansion was to add a meeting room on the south side and then remodel the existing structure.
Yeah.
And that
Because it
hasn't,
was, it's going to be too expensive to build one altogether because of
Th-
number
that
one,
is-
lack space, and number two,
Yeah,
we,
that-
in the deed that we have to use it a certain way.
we got that lifted.
We didn't
Yeah,
get it
we don't
We
lifted.
get that, we got that lifted. My concern was the overall cost, but we'll have that conversation as part of my presentation as we look for commission direction.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
And then I've got in there replacement of the countertops in here in the kitchen. The remainder countertops for the bathrooms and court clerk, Christy Wheeler, front admin, that's all part of this current fiscal year. So I've got that worked out in this year's budget. Any questions?
Okay, so you're currently at 1.2, a little over for the current budget. When we're fully staffed, we have 26 full-time and 15 part-time or reserve officers, which puts us at a total staff of 41. Some of our highlights this year, obviously, we had a couple of new hires as we had officers leave to go elsewhere, or whatever the case may be. We had about, I guess, 3 new hires. We are starting a new reserve academy tomorrow night, actually. We had 5. We hired one of those, ended up wanting to come full-time, so we hired him. So we putting 4 through. We had some recent promotions where Corey McNeil was promoted to sergeant. Detective O'Daniel was raised to detective grade 3. And we just, most recent promotion was Josh Parson being promoted to corporal. A lot of notable training, as you can see. I won't go through every single line item, but we had a lot of leadership, command training, instructor level courses. Perry Collins, our property and evidence manager, got a national or international accreditation through their association, which was good. It was definitely needed. Sergeant Booth attended some advanced training in risks management and training liability and liability in general, received a certification in that. We did get at least one more officer trained in advanced traffic investigation, working on getting some officers through recon to rebuild those resources. And then again, as you can just see, a lot of leadership training, a lot of instructor development, a lot of instructor related stuff, so we can continue to teach our officers as much in-house as we can, and as we bring in new hires and reserve officers and that sort of thing. Some of the highlights, as you all know, we did finally have actually entered into the compliance phase of the accreditation. So we're very proud that that's moving forward. It'll be ongoing over the next couple of years, of course, as we work with our mentoring agency that's working with us and work on the compliance. Again, the community outreach events, the National Faith in Blue, the National Night Out. We are in the process of upgrading our interview room, which you guys have already approved, and it's supposed to be, the install for that is February the 6th. So that'll be wrapping up. Obviously, a big achievement for us was the SRO position at Collegedale Academy. Very proud of that. That seems to be working splendidly. Heard nothing but great things from the officer and the school staff and individuals. And then Sergeant Herco was recently selected to become part of the FBI's Safe Street Task Force, which to my knowledge is the first time Collegedale PD has ever had an officer involved in that type of level of task force. Basically, it allows Sergeant Herco and our detectives, in the event we have some significant criminal issue, as you can kind of read through what it focuses, that allows the city and our detectives to have access to the FBI's tools and manpowers and to effectively work cases within our city. And it does not cost the city anything for us to do that. It's a joint partnership. So very pleased with that. Detective O'Daniel is also in discussion with another task force through the TBI. I'll have a MOU to bring to you next commission meeting that'll finalize up Sergeant Herco's position and move forward with that. So kind of some ongoing, again, the agency accreditation will be ongoing over the next few years. Community outreach will always be a program that we continue to grow and work with. Officer wellness, again, always will be ongoing as we work to improve opportunities, resources for our officers in various levels of officer wellness. Again, the interview room should be wrapped up in a couple of weeks. Some longer term projects down the road, maybe the next 3 to 5. We do need to get some upgrade work done out at the range. That current building out there is steadily in a process of decay. So we'll need to get that storage building replaced with something better, hopefully a little longer lasting. We've discussed potentially expanding on our training building out there to allow us more room for training, to do a little more than we can with the space we have right now. But again, those are kind of longer down the road. No major projects this year. Fortunately, with you guys' support, we've really done the lion's share of what we needed to do as far as technology upgrades and getting our equipment where it needed to be. So nothing major expense-wise or on the horizons for this upcoming year. Capital will probably just essentially be vehicles again, or will just be vehicles again. And I have been in discussion with the city manager. We're kind of looking at needs right now, but potentially asking for an additional officer to be able to add another detective in the investigative division upstairs. It's largely due to the credit of the outstanding work, because if you look at our kind of currently, the state average was of caseload. Our detectives are carrying about double what the state average is as far as active cases. Even with that being the case, they still, as you guys see in the quarterly reports and stuff, are well over the state average on closing those cases out and getting them handled. But I would like to see, if possible, if we could get the caseload more down towards the state average, because obviously if they've got 30 cases to work on versus 15, then they can put more time and effort into those 15, if that makes sense. So that's pretty much all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
Chief, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Couple of questions. What is the length of your reserve academy?
It runs about, it just depends on how often the stuff gets delayed or pushed back, but it's about 6 months.
Okay. And that's meeting?
They meet every Tuesday and Thursday nights for 4 hours from 6 to 10. And
Okay.
then there's an occasional weekend day for like emergency driving or firearms if they need to do that on a full 8-hour day.
And what about the simulator? Because I know you were.
Yeah, the simulator has been purchased and it's been installed out at the range training ring.
Okay.
Yep. And it's great.
Okay, good.
Speaking of reserves, do we have reserves that have take-home vehicles?
We have three, I think currently, 2 or 3 they're on the special operations response team. So they're subject to be called in on an emergency need for that. So
I thought we were told we didn't have a sort team.
We still have the team, but we've rolled it way, way back. We're up, we maintain the qualifications of the folks that have it, but we've pulled away from some of the historical sort purchases and reduced the budget. I would hate to guess how much we've reduced it,
yeah, we're pretty much down to nothing but just
maintaining
new
training.
officers and any certifications, but equipment and as far as that goes is pretty much non-existent. But yeah, the sword team is there. We did away with the, oh, what did they call it? The specialized team that was kind of a separate division outside of patrol. That went away a long time ago. But as far as having officers trained to that level, higher standard or higher level of training for specialized response, yeah, we still have that.
I don't know about having reserve officers having take-home vehicles just in the event that there's a sort call out. When was the last sort call out in our city?
In our city, it's been over 6 months to a year probably, but that doesn't mean it couldn't happen tonight. So
3 cars, that's a lot of city resources to just be sitting
it might
somewhere.
not be 3. We have 2, one of which, and correct me if I'm wrong, Wayne, but one of which the reserve officer purchased the car and donated it to the city.
That was the one that jumped to my mind, that yes, he purchased it, donated it, and then was assigned it
Yeah.
at no cost to
And
the
then
city.
we have, Sergeant Harris has one, but he's also on the team and he's the supervisor for the reserve officers. And he's in a older car anyway, so.
Okay, and you were talking about accreditation. You mentioned a mentoring agency. Who is the mentoring agency?
Red Bank.
Red Bank?
Mhm.
Their chief is former Collegedale, is that
Yes.
right?
And Seymour.
So Ben Seymour.
Yes.
Is there any plan to reactivate the citizens group?
That's going to be dependent on state law.
Oh, so you talk about the round table?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's gonna be dependent on,
Yeah.
on what the state does in their verbiage and
have they not completed that yet?
They have not reopened that law.
Okay.
And it has not shown up on the legislative update for them to address it. We've informed them that while well-meaning, they caught several of us up in overly broad language. And so we're waiting to see if it gets updated so that it would allow us to operate it again. It really was going very well.
It
It was a great tool. And I understand why the state, what they were trying to address, but unfortunately, we were fodder.
Did Chattanooga not reactivate theirs? I
I'm
thought
not
I read in
certain.
the paper that they had activated theirs, or one of the cities around here.
I'm not certain. I would have
Okay.
to look. I was waiting on a go-ahead from legal.
yeah, I haven't heard of any agency specific either.
Any more questions?
All righty. On to me. So Public Works Department, recycling, sewers, streets, waste collection, citywide fleet maintenance. This year's budget cycle is $9,788,000 and change over those departments. That includes about 1.3 million in revenue for the sewer department. Staff highlights, we've hired 5 people this year, 1 labor, 1 position, 4 labor, 2 positions due to people leaving, being let go. That 3 of the new hires have had Class B CDLs. 1 has had a Class A CDL. We promoted 1 laborer 2 to field supervisor, and that's been a great transition. It's really helping keep the guys efficient and organized with their tasks between maintenance and projects. We received training from several different conferences, webinars, workshops, and done some in-house OSHA hazardous training as well. We added a new position of Public Works Safety Director, and that individual is helping with PPE enforcement, TOSHA inspections, which we had one this year and it went well. We have had more job site briefings, helps with project efficiencies. It's taken over the fire extinguishers and AED inspections citywide and is making sure that we're meeting all the TOSHA training guidelines. The safety director applied for and was awarded a $4,000 safety grant from PEP and is looking at ways that we can streamline that process to make sure we get that every year going forward. This year, Public Works Department was awarded the TML Municipal Achievement Award for Excellence in Public Works, specifically for the derailment and response to that event. I was elected to the Tennessee chapter of American Public Works as the Lower East Branch Director. And in doing that, we'll be having a lot of educational meetings with vendors and stuff, learning about new products with area public works departments and coordinating with their leadership teams as well. We had a plow A team and B team respond to the most recent snow and sleet event. We came out pre-treated the day before, ran around the clock in different shifts, and what we've understood from the police department is there weren't any weather-related motor vehicle crashes during the event.
No, and we greatly appreciate the hard work that y'all all did. Makes it so much easier.
Glad to do it. Department highlights. So sewer department, 0 releases and overflows this year. We were awarded a $1.4 million grant from TDEC, and we're going to be focusing on rehabbing our largest pump station. It is 42 years old and had a 42-year design life. So right on schedule to replace it and rebuild it. We did a large mainline sewer project in-house this year, saved about $50,000 based on some other industry pricing we've gotten. We've completed phase 3 of our CCTV work and phase 4 of our manhole linings. We've still got several more phases coming, but we're just plugging away at our maintenance. For the fleet department, we added a mechanic to help with public works and a lot of the new PD upfitting that we're doing so far. We've upfitted 9 police cars, and speaking with our head mechanic who spoke with Truckers Lighthouse, which was a vendor that does this, costs about $20,000 a car. They quoted as 100 and I think it was 180 man hours to do the job at $140 an hour, something like that. So came out to right at $20,000 a car. They're working real well with Whitfield County, Georgia, Fordo, Red Bank, and Ringgold because they're looking at upfitting some of their stuff as well. We added a heavy truck scan tool to be able to take care of some of our bigger vehicles in-house versus having to send them downtown. Landscape department's done a lot of water ponding projects along the Greenway, installed Christmas tree decorations at City Hall, assisted the Commons with the pole tree for the Christmas events, installed the new mountain bike course at Thatcher Switch, and did all the prep work for the stamped concrete out on Swinier Drive for the Little Debbie back-end parking areas. They also did the tree grant planting that planning did and removed a lot of dead trees and stuff at the Veterans Park. Public Works Department has completed the grade work for the Pro Building sidewalk and drinking fountain area and did the rehab for the duck/fish pond. We're transitioning to call it the fish pond because ducks are not good for the pond and the fish and all its inhabitants. So the duck pond, as I've always known it, is out by Southern. So we're trying to transition it to the fish pond. Let's see. So Public Works installed all the delineators on Swinier Drive, and we assisted with the, we contracted out the Edgemond Road sinkhole repair and then did some of the stuff in-house to help save about 15 grand and finished 1 week ahead of schedule. So our action items for the next couple of years, completing the conference room at Public Works. That's going to help with a lot of the meetings and stuff we have, some Zoom or I guess Teams meetings, make those a lot more efficient in-house, not having to come to City Hall for meetings. We're currently working on purchasing a service truck. We don't really have one right now. We have one in the sewer department, but not in Public Works. We've got budgeted funds for that in this year's budget. We're working on creating a GIS streets layer into our mapping program that we have. We're hoping to implement StreetScan to be able to build a 5-year capital paving plan. For the sewer department, we're looking at purchasing some equipment to help with maintenance and small projects, rubber track loader, some trench safety equipment. Basically, for big projects, we can rent that stuff, but it's in Knoxville. And you have to pay more than it costs to rent it, to have it delivered. So it gets expensive for emergency stuff to get it, so it makes sense to have it on hand. For Public Works, we're looking at purchasing a used bucket truck. The one that we have currently, I believe is a 2002 model, and we purchased it from TVA when they were done with it about 16 years ago, and it needs a lot of repair work to be certified. So we don't use enough to purchase a brand new one, but I think there's a lot of used ones on the market that would fit our need quite well. Looking at purchasing a new hook lift truck to help with dumpster roll-off deliveries and our current recycle situation. I'm actively looking to see how we can make recycling more efficient. But for right now, with the dumpster rentals that we have, with the containers that we have 2 older trucks that we're starting to put more money into them than we need to. We can purchase 1 new truck that eliminates a lot of that, is what I'm wanting to do in this next budget. I've got a sanitation semi-trailer in there. So we have a contract for hauling. It used to be a local company. That local company got bought out a year ago. The new national company has not been very great to work with. That contract ends June of this year, and I have a very good understanding that they're probably going to hit us with a 30 to 40% increase. And even if we were to stay with them, having a 3rd trailer would help us, because when we have our bulk days, we start to run short on trailers, especially if we have bulk days and the holiday pickup, then it gets very tight. So it is something that I'm putting in the next year's budget for sure.
If we're outsourcing that, shouldn't we be utilizing their equipment, whoever we're going with?
Right. So when we did that contract, to save us money and also keep that equipment, they maintain it, but it's ours. So that if when the contract comes up, we don't have to go buy $320,000 trailers to start doing it for ourselves again. If we had done that when we're in this renewal process, we would then have to go buy $300,000, well, really close to $400,000 worth of equipment. Whereas right now, if we decide, oh, you're going up 40%, sorry, we're going to just keep doing it in-house. We don't have that capital expenditure to go purchase 3 trailers.
Would you have to purchase a semi to pull them?
We have one.
You have one?
Yes, we used to have 2. We sold our oldest, kept our newest, and we use it for our low boy hauling equipment and stuff.
Have you seen an uptick in tonnage in the past couple of years that you're hauling off?
It varies quite a bit. Monthly, we average between 260 and 280 tons, and it's been within 3% the last several years. I mean, I would say yes, there's probably been a 3% uptick, but it varies quite a bit. All right, next one, this is for next year's budget, hire a landscaper to handle additional greenway from Appleton Pike Phase 4 and maintain city property at a higher level. Basically, the greenway as it sits now is 3.7 miles. They're going to give us a little over a mile, and then some with Phase 4. And so with that and everything else that we're taking care of, we foresee in not this coming, but next year's budget cycle, adding a person. That is not including taking over the Levy Park. Like Wayne said, that maintain that park at current levels is 2 full people. So for the landscape department, we're looking at purchasing a Skag Windstorm. And basically what that is it's a very high-powered, very efficient blower setup that is on a ride-on-top mower platform. We demoed one a couple months ago, and I've gotten with my landscape supervisor and looked at from fall to basically end of winter, the amount of time that they spend blowing on the greenway, dealing with leaves and all that. They spend, I forget how many hours it was, but we calculated just specifically on those items, nothing else. It would pay for the blower in a matter of a year and a half. So the labor savings just in that, not to mention, we demoed it and actually were blowing rock debris off of a construction site out in the road. So even Public Works, if we have call-ins and stuff, we could send that out to handle stuff as well.
How much did you price one of those at?
I think one of the vendors was like 12,000. One of the other vendors was like 10,600.
I can only find 14. I couldn't find anything less than that.
Right. So that's municipal price. Yeah. Their advertised price is in the 14,000, but municipal for the Skag Windstorm, off the top of my head, it was 10,600. The mini track loader is to replace a Kubota B26 that we have. It was purchased before I was director to be used on the greenway, and it is not a very efficient piece of equipment. We've had it for 8 years, and it only has, I think, 200 something hours on it, and it's just it doesn't function very well. We've demoed and rented some of these mini track loaders in the past. They're basically the exact same setup as a skid steer on tracks. It's just you stand on it. So you can get in tight areas and maneuver very well. It's not as heavy, so it doesn't tear up the ground. And so it would be selling the Kubota and replacing it with the mini track loader. Second to last item, create a new sanitation ordinance. We've got a lot of room to improve. We have a lot of daily, weekly calls about trash can issues. This can't be in the dumpster rental, all that kind of stuff. So we're looking at completely revisiting the sanitation ordinance and getting something that is very what we do today in an ordinance and out there so the citizens can be educated on it and know what they can and cannot do. Last item is all the basically sewer maintenance stuff. CCTV, manhole linings, continuing GPSing our sewer infrastructure to basically have a full understanding of our system and keeping it up to date and keeping TDEC happy, keeping the EPA happy. I think we've only had a few minor overflows in the last 5 years due to construction debris, root intrusion, all that kind of stuff. We've not had, at least in the last almost 2 years, a weather-related overflow, which not very many municipalities in this region can say. So we're doing very well with staying ahead of everything.
And that's in addition to that pump station rebuild, which will be some pretty heavy lifting.
Yeah.
For the sewer department, Chris and all.
So fairly recently, you had a rented track hoe and you did some cleanup along the greenway, pulled out a lot of dead trees. I applaud you for that. I think there are way too many dead trees there that I think we need to remove. So we've got within this budget, we've got the track hoe that we need to be able to do that work.
That track hoe is not in this presentation.
Okay.
Those are very expensive pieces of equipment to purchase and maintain. And at this point, it is more optimal for us to rent them with specific projects, one after the next after the next. At some point in the future, that may change, but for this budget cycle and frankly, where we are with revenues, I did not believe it was the most efficient usage of funds. I know Eric wants one, and to do those types of projects, we would need that. But right now, it's my belief that we'd be best to line up projects and rent.
And how much is the cost?
So for the excavator I had in this presentation, at 19,000 pounds, I believe right at 160 was the price from Caterpillar. And that's with, I think, either 3 or 5 year warranty with 3,000 hours of maintenance and service included. And if the machine's in the shop for that work, they give you a similar comparable to use while it's down.
What about the used market?
So used market, anywhere from 10 years old, you could find one for $30,000-$40,000 that you might have to put 10 grand in it every couple of years to fix it up. Typically on this kind of stuff, you're better off buying new because you know how it's maintained, you know how it's used. A lot of contractors will just run them to the very edge and then, okay, well, I get a big tax break on buying a new piece of equipment. So I buy a new piece of equipment and then sell this stuff for what I can get out of it. So for the sewer department, if the sewer department is purchasing it, it doesn't fall under the revenues for tax-based stuff. And I've not plugged everything into the sewer forms, but I believe we would be able to purchase it without a rate increase. But there's also no issue with renting per se, but it just depends on how many projects you're doing is what you're going to spend on rental. So a rental on something like that is about $3,500 a month. So essentially you can rent one. If you rent it constant, you've paid for it in about a year and a half. But if you're only having to rent it, 3 months out of the year, well, then you're only spending, 15 grand a year, 10 years before it.
Well, I applaud you on that project, and I think we need to do more of it. I think we need to do more, remove more of the dead trees and the debris from our parks and greenways.
As you review your sanitation ordinances and so forth, would you consider having some smaller trash cans for some of the households that maybe only has 1 or 2 people in it?
Yeah, so we get that request a lot. The only thing is the automated cans, the automated trucks, these smaller cans are smaller in diameter. So I'd say there's the smaller cans that we have not removed yet, there's a 50 to 60% chance when they grab it and they go to dump it, can goes in the hopper too. So they're more designed for rear loader trucks and they quote unquote work, but probably 60% of the time they end up in the truck. So we could look to maybe an alternate solution, but the main thing is if you don't fill the can up, then just take it out the next week or something like that. A lot of the concerns we have are elderly people. They say when the can gets full, it's too heavy. Like, well, you can half fill the can and still take it to the curb. We'll pick it up.
We can investigate some other solutions as well, and at least,
I
we
only
can't be
put-
the only folks that
I
have
only
this
put mine
situation.
down once a month now because I just don't
I mean, we do have some
have
smaller
much
ones, right?
trash.
We do. I
Very
think
limited.
we've been weeding them out though. Thankfully, a lot of the ones that we've taken, people have called and said, hey, can I have a bigger one? I have the small one. We're like, yes. We'll give you a brand new big one and no questions asked because they do lose them in the truck.
Did you have any pricing yet on that sanitation trailer, semi-trailer?
I've not because the market's pretty fluid. I think the last time I looked into them, they were depending on brand, between 110 and 130. And that's probably 9 months old, so within 5%.
So I applaud Public Works because I happened to be at the fire department the night y'all were out there working all night. And I saw them hustling, trying to get things ready. And I too heard that on the news that Hamilton County as a whole had over, I think it was like a little over 100 or somewhere over 100 MVCs in 24-hour period. I'm just really thankful that you guys take care of the roads and stuff like that for us. But I would like to discuss, I know this is probably not the appropriate time, how we pay Public Works during this time when they're not actively at work, during work hours.
What do you mean?
Well, they're working like weekend to get stuff ready and.
So the folks that came in on Sunday have already been paid at time and a half because it fell on the preceding pay cycle. The inherited policy was that we did not pay in July, and we had called, it has already been paid at time and a half.
Okay. I just, it's tough for people to give up, nights and stuff when,
Yeah, and
I know
so
it's their job, kind of, it's expected.
it is. And additionally, the folks that we required to stay in the hotel are paid per diem for that day and a 2-hour call-in in addition to the hours worked.
How many employees did we have stay at hotels?
Do you have the number, Eric?
So different shifts, different people. I think one night we had 4 or 5, and then one night we had 3.
We wanted to make sure that they were here to
Yes,
run
the
the
first
roads.
night it was to make sure that if people went home, probably wouldn't be able to make it back
Yeah.
in. And then the second night, those same people, they would not have been able to make it home. So they stayed.
We might ought to invest in some bunks for one of the rooms.
That has been a thing that we've talked about, and I specifically talked to Wayne about. We're going to go get bunks. He's like, for right now, it's cheap enough to put them in a hotel. And
We're going to evaluate to Eric's point, the hotel is not cost prohibitive for this event that occurs every 3 to 5 years. But we're going to look into it.
Is that something where Tricom would have room to, that we could work an arrangement with them to have sleeping areas for events like this? If we need
The
staff.
challenge is they have people staying over there. I mean, they have
They're doing the same
They're
thing.
2
full
bunk
up.
rooms.
That's a good point.
another issue with the bunking is you have people actively working with equipment and the noise and all that. The hotel thing, especially since there's one within the city of Collegedale, we know the roads are going to be good getting in and out. It worked out quite
Yeah,
well.
it ended up being about $100 a room.
That's
So
not bad.
so it was,
Yeah.
when you look at what we spent on salt and overtime and that sort of
Yeah.
thing, it was really not an impactful difference.
Well, thank you for all what y'all did. It's appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
Any other questions? We'll move on to Ryan.
Okay, so current fiscal year, of course, our budget, $802,030, 2 full-time staff, 4 part-time staff for a total of 6. Staff highlights, not a whole lot of notable change. We still remain fully staffed. We have a great team together right now. We did hire Seth Haubrick. He filled our line clerk position, so that does, again, give us fully staffed department. As far as department highlights, we continue to have a very good year. One of my most proudest things is the new LED rotating beacon. I've gotten a tremendous amount of compliments on that from pilots, both transient and local-based individuals that say how bright and visible it is at night. So very proud of that. We did complete the underground storage tank removal project just before Christmas, so that was another big TDOT-funded project that we're glad to have done. We did receive the economic development grant back in the summertime, so we're, of course, still ironing out details on that, cost estimation, all that. Hope to have some more information within the next few months or so. We also did do additional solar runway LED lights. We added last spring. Again, plan to continue to add more this current year. We've got 16 of them in place right now, so it kind of gives us about a quarter of our total runway lights are solar LED. So it does make a very big difference. Along with the rotating beacon, it just starts adding on to our night operations and improving safety and visibility, which is what it's all about. We did begin the obstruction clearing project to improve safety of the approach pass to the airport. We did just complete that on Friday, in fact. So that project is another completed project that I'm very happy to have done. It has made a significant difference, especially to the south end of the airport. And McKee was great to work with, so we're very pleased with that. And we also continue to do appearance improvement initiatives, whether it may be power washing, painting, that kind of thing, just to improve the appearance of the airport. So we've had a great year. Again, very proud of what we've been able to accomplish. Action items, obstruction clearing, again, at the time of the PowerPoint, it was still ongoing. Again, we did just complete it on Friday. The next item in our capital improvement or our capital improvement plan is the Pappy Light design. So this is a good opportunity to take just a second, just kind of say that, while we are going into a new phase of projects at the airport, we've completed 2 TDOT projects. We're going into another phase of projects. Basically, what's going to be taking place during those is the design work, the studies, various studies and such to complete it. So the momentum is continuing, but from the outside, it may not look like there's a lot of visible progress being made, but it's just a lot of the early, all the design work and such. So just wanted to mention that. But we're looking at about a year or so before we get the design work completed. The next thing is the economic development grant. Again, we're still ironing out some details on that. We anticipate, about 3 years. It's a 3 to 5 year project or timeline with TDOT, so we are anticipating about 3 years. Again, the additional solar runway edge lights, 9 months we've kind of allotted for that. We're just kind of chipping away each year. The lights are about 850 a piece, so we're just kind of chipping away as we can. Like some of the previous departments, I do want to do some additional security cameras. We've got 3 of them right now. It's been really nice to have that, and I'd like to make the entire airport have surveillance. So it's a very big improvement there. Also, pressure washing commercial hangars. The commercial hangars specifically could certainly use some additional care that they haven't had over the years. So I'd like to get those pressure washed. That kind of falls under the appearance improvement initiatives that I'm working on, as well as a new airport sign. Of course, with the Apison Pike Road project, that old sign was removed a number of months ago. So once we get the all clear, we'll start working on putting a new one in. And then some community outreach. Again, like we talked about with Parks and Rec, we'd like to do some additional community outreach projects, whether that would be the movie night or a open house. We're kind of working on that, but my idea is an event in the spring and then another one later in the fall. So looking forward, the next couple fiscal years, kind of what we are thinking on the horizon. I'd like to put in some kind of a storage shed for our golf carts. We're also thinking about increasing the ability to fuel. So that would be the fuel truck. We would need a place to store that. And then fuel tank pressure washing and painting, which is a long overdue project. They could certainly use a little bit of TLC. So that's another improvement project that I'd like to do within the next couple years. And then, of course, our TDOT capital improvement projects that continue to be ongoing. So fiscal year 26, 27, pressure washing the terminal building, painting, stripping and repainting the windsock pole, just kind of some various odds and ends that help improve the appearance of the airport. We did a couple things that aren't on here that I'm thinking of as I'm going through. The airport layout plan we started back in the spring. We officially kicked it off just a few months ago we're starting 12 months of data collection. So we started that in November. They want to run a full 12 months of data collection as part of that airport layout plan before they start doing the studies and you take all the data into consideration to continue that plan. So we started that in November. So we're looking a year from November to continue working on that airport layout plan. So again, just kind of want to mention, we have completed a lot of large scale projects and we're getting into that next phase where we get back into the design work. So there will be a little bit of time before you start seeing visible things take place, if you will, as those initial phases of projects are being completed. All right. Any questions?
So Ryan, right now we have one prospective tenant who's interested in building a hangar.
Yeah.
We're looking with that $1.3 million grant for job creation. we're looking for that second tenant. If we were to come up with that second tenant, say in the next 2 months,
Mhm.
what kind of timeline are we looking? What can we realistically tell them to say, okay, you can start building a hangar in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? What are we thinking?
TDOT's a multi-year at
Yeah.
this point.
I would say realistically a year. By the time we get site plan engineering done, we get all of that prep work, I'd say we'd be looking at about a year.
But we're in place to, if somebody comes along, to be able to get that ball rolling.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So,
We're in design. We just have to complete design and then complete permitting and then go out to bid.
right. Yeah. So right now Garver is just kind of looking at, to see what we can do, as far as getting some cost estimation stuff together. So that's where we're at on it now. And then once we get that completed, then that'll be our next steps.
Okay.
Anything else? Do you want to take a 5-minute break and
Yes.
then circle back?
Yes.
Okay.
At 4 o'clock is getting to me.
Let's say 6:30.
5-minute break during that passes.
I was actually going to ask if this goes, if it's done at 7, we want to.
Okay.
Break and come back next Monday
Okay.
to do part 2. Do y'all want
Tim run away?
He did. He's on his way back.
Okay.
So,
Katie, go.
pardon?
Katie, go.
Yeah.
Is Katie gone?
Yes. So Commissioner Lamb has stepped out for the evening. She had some personal things she needs to take care of. The vice mayor's on his way back. He needed to grab something real quick. But since it is already after 6:30, we'll power on. Okay, there you go. So admin, 869 current budget, 5.3 roughly in general gov budget, staff of 12. If I get going too fast, y'all please slow me down. Department highlights, we continue to expand our transparency through our digital outreach. The Little Debbie Park is opened and has been a huge success. We lifted the library building deed restrictions, established a safety position, decreased workers' comp claims a couple years in a row. K-9 program's up and running well, expansion of employee medical plan options and decrease in premiums. We got our employee manual revision done, and strong efforts with the coalition on legislation with several major items possibly coming up this session, such as removal of the grocery tax, a limit on annual property tax increases, push to annual property tax appraisals, et cetera. So on that note, I will be bringing an MOU to the commission next meeting. This formalizes our Small Cities Coalition relationship. It's mainly an editorial change with the expansion on how we hire and fire the staff member. That was not detailed in the original. And the smallest cities are going to be paying a little bit higher of a percentage, and the larger cities are trickling down a little bit. But that'll be coming next go around. On those couple of bills, there's a big push on the annual reappraisals, and that has real traction this year. The grocery tax doesn't really seem to have much traction. We're being told it's going to be a fight in Nashville. It would be a big hit to us if we were to lose it. But again, we're being assured that it's not got a lot of traction this year. And then the annual cap on property tax, actually saw it today, and that the way it's written right now is it would be 2%. The cap would be 2% over that year's inflation rate. So what most of the cities have done historically, cost included, is you wait as long as you can, then you do one of property tax increase to say 12%. That option would not exist. And so I still don't have good data. In some states that have done this, when that cap is set too low, basically everyone does an annual or biannual property tax increase to stay ahead of it. I'm still waiting to see where the final language lands and get more of the details. Again, I saw it this afternoon, so I haven't gone as deep as I will go on the bill. And then action items, our IT upgrade is ongoing. We've not been hacked since swapping. Let's say that it's a joke. But we are continuing to move forward and make some the park system parking lot has been ongoing. Again, we're pushing on these legislative initiatives and some of the appropriations. And then we have that conversation from earlier about the College of Tomorrow. Oh, I went the wrong way again. Oop, I got it. There we go. And the College Dale Tomorrow Foundation versus an additional laborer. I will circle back to y'all when I have more detail on what we're going to do. Or right now, I only see two paths, so which one we're thrust upon. So the meat and potatoes of my presentation tonight is general fund capital investment projects. As you know, we are doing pretty well financially. We have good, strong reserves, and we have close to about $4 million that we can invest in various city initiatives. And so this is the list that I'm aware of. And so what I'm hoping to get from tonight is, is the commission to dictate to us what direction you want to go. And so I've handed you each a handout tonight. And what I'm asking is, over the course of a week or so, if you will each go through and prioritize these, I'll then sum that up, send it to you, and use that as the ranking on the citizens' voice on what projects you want to do not want to do, and in what order. So my recommendation, and I'll run through each of these, and then it's really open to the commission. My recommendation is to do the projects in green. The projects in yellow, I would like to start design on the Greenway and roll that into property acquisition. This would be a multi-year, very expensive. That would involve not only significant design, property acquisition, and then a fund. And before we moved into construction, so I would like to start on that and then start looking at a design for the mechanic shop in a couple of years. Right now, we can't even get our full-size trucks into the shop. And since we've taken on the upfitting in-house, our guys are spread pretty thin, and they're really, really hurting for space. And so I would encourage you to take a tour, go see where they're upfitting the cars and make your own opinion. What Eric and I have talked about is our block shed that is collapsing to help it. And then in that space, build a shop for their usage. A shop with lifts and that sort of thing that we could actually get all of our equipment all the way in, as an example, and lifts that could handle our stuff so that we could find some efficiencies there. The projects in blue, and I'll go through each one of these. I'm just trying to give you where my brain's at. The projects in blue are projects that I think we should come back to somewhere in that 3 to 5 year timeline. As we've gotten through some of these projects, we see what revenues do, and some just need a little seasoning, in my opinion, before the timing's right. So I will start at the parking lot across the creek. This is the property that was donated to us under the guise that we will build this said parking lot in association with Little Debbie Park. For all intents and purposes, we're obligated to do this. We said we would do this, and it's a string on the property. It goes back if we choose not to, and we're pretty close to the end of that timeline. This is the project that is pretty much designed. Chris has prepared the lighting plan. I need to go through that a little. Pardon?
It's permitted.
Okay. Yeah, but yeah, and we still have to get the landscape plan together, and then we'll go out to bid. 30-ish days pending commission prioritization. The Imagination Station rebuild. So Imagination Station is right at 30 years old from memory.
So this is, yeah, the wooden portion.
Yes, it's
Between the kiddie area and the older kid area, the wooden portion is what we're
Yes,
talking about
yes.
doing. And in that, redoing the kiddie area, because the fencing around it and how it deals with the creek and flooding and stuff is not, it's a maintenance nightmare. So it's basically from the new redone area all the way to the left, and utilizing the newer pieces that were installed in the kiddie area, rearrange them and adding some new play features and the ADA merry-go-round in between the two as a transitional piece and easy access to the sidewalks and everything.
So the wooden structures are rotting, and this is a project that will have to be done. It's really going to be up to the commission on in what year it's done, but we're getting pretty close.
And the wooden pieces are like where the people had their hands and.
So all the handprints are on the exterior fence of the kiddie areas, and this is they have all been professionally redone. They were
Okay, I thought they
professionally
had.
redone 8 years ago. In that process, some of them were not feasible to be redone, but the ones that were redone are available. If we do take it down, we will hold on to them, do a community outreach to see, hey, what do y'all, the community, if you have prints and you want them, great, come get them. Or what do you want us to do with them? Do we need to make another fence or something special piece out of it? Great, but it doesn't need to be what's used to perimeter the new stuff.
Yeah.
So, the next on the list is the airport grant match. So as you know, we are incredibly fortunate to receive the $1.3 million. That's about a year and a half maintenance budget. And so my proposal would be to cover that from the city, since it's a job creation grant, and let the airport continue to do their maintenance projects and not sink their budget for 2 years on the match. The next is the terminal refresh. This would be paint, flooring, and countertops only. It would not be an expansion or moving walls or anything like that. It'd be similar to what we've worked on at City Hall and the Pro Building over the last couple of years. Frankly, our structures are just getting old and it's time for some maintenance and some refreshes. So
And that would come out of the general fund?
yes, the auditors.
Because it's city-owned.
It's the city structure we're allowed to. The auditors, when we talk to them, it's taking money out of an enterprise fund that is the problem. Moving it into is not so much a problem. And they're very clear that our building we can maintain. So,
Well, and it screams 1990.
Yeah.
I mean, it's awful.
Yep.
And that's, for people coming into our city, that's their first impression.
Yep.
And it's not a good first impression.
right. The next is the City Hall Christmas lights that the commission asked for. The one after that is the Christmas pole LEDs. They are the initial pricing was $660-ish each. We would obviously look around for better pricing, but that's where I came up with the pricing. That's roughly 40. And whether those were ongoing or not, I'd look for commission direction.
So the lights that were up there this year on the pole.
No.
No,
The
street
banners,
lights.
the banner
Oh,
replacements.
okay, the banner
So
replacement.
going
Gotcha.
from.
Thank you for that. I was confused about that.
Sorry, it's all crystal clear in my mind. The request was to go from the dated cloth banners to the
Yeah.
little LED things.
Well, East Ridge has got Christmas trees, and I love the Christmas trees. I mean, is it something like that? Is that what you're,
I haven't seen theirs
okay,
that I recall. It would just be the typical LED things that slide in, just like the banners.
They make
do.
all kinds of Christmas trees, candy canes, snowflakes. I mean, there's hundreds of different lighting options.
Okay.
Pick your poison, pick your price range.
okay.
So, all right. The next is the remodel and expansion of the library that we've been talking about. The reason I recommend that one over the new library, even though the new library is a better idea and a better plan, is simply finances. I've not come up with a way to get to the total price of a new library and think a remodel would be the right fit for now. I spoke with the county. At this time, they're not going to be able to partner with us on it, so it would be city funded.
And question, is there any way for us to look at, I mean, it looks like there's still space in there that could be utilized better.
That would be part of the remodel.
I mean, without doing a remodel.
There's just empty shelves, I think is what he's referring to, and table space everywhere.
So a third option that's not on here that we could do is get rid of the room expansion that we had talked about and do a lower priced remodel. The table space needs to be addressed, the empty space needs to be addressed, the circulation desk needs to go.
Yep.
That's wasted
That's
space.
what I'm,
All of that needs to occur.
and the computer desk, I don't know that that's the best way to have computers out there.
So LS&S has a SME whose sole focus is remodels and optimization, who would be frontline with us on either path. So if the commission chose a remodel without an expansion, I can get the proposal updated to do that. If you wanted to include the expansions needed for program rooms. It would be best to have it over there. It would be optimal for them. But what they're currently doing currently works.
I'm just thinking until we get a little bit more of these other projects done. That's a big chunk to pay.
Yeah. I'd like to see a price on just the remodel.
Okay, it's 5,000 square feet. It's probably going to be 400,000 based on what I see in my head. Ish, something like that.
But once you remodel though, if they utilize the space correctly, it's going to give them more space to work with, right?
Yes, it would absolutely address it. The only shortcoming is going to be where they put their programs. And that's where we get a lot of feedback now.
They
is
need the room, yeah.
They
for
need
that.
a room for programs.
So within the $400,000 figure, we're talking new carpet, new paint, new freshen up.
Yes, and pulling all it out, reorganizing it, et cetera. I'm not a library layout expert, so exactly What the current trends are, I don't know.
I'd like to see what it looks like. Utilize the internal space first before we make it such a big investment.
I'd agree with that.
Okay.
Like if we, can you get us a floor plan, like a vision of what they would do with just a refresh?
It'll cost about $25,000 to have the architect lay it. draw
Can
it.
we have her sketch on paper what she wants for free?
I can reach out to the LS&S person. and
Okay.
See what they can get us.
Do
So-
they have to approve it, or is this something we can just do?
I was planning on just doing it. It's our building.
Yeah.
Contract says that we
Because
provide the
because
facility.
like the circulation or the desk where you go in, that's a huge desk area.
Yeah, and it needs to come out. It
Needs to
absolutely
be
needs to come out.
downsized. And then, the computer desk and stuff, is there a better way for us to do that? Tablets or whatever?
Hmm.
They can be bugged, if you will, so if you try to walk out with them,
Hmm.
bells and whistles go off. But I just don't know if that much space
Well,
is
they-
the best utilized with those computers.
Most of the, I mean, even though it was upgraded, or they've done a few things, most of the materials and stuff are predated. I mean, as for the shelves and things
Mhm.
like that, and the computer tables and all that, I mean, they could be maybe smaller computer, even a Nook or something.
So I'm getting the impression from the commission that a remodel of the existing space is all you would be interested in and not an expansion. Would that be a fair?
And I'd like to
statement?
keep it under 250, I mean, personally.
I don't think we can touch 5,000 square feet for that.
I think.
Well,
that
can
would
you
be
do it
fair.
over multiple years?
Every time we do it, we'll have to shut the library down.
I think though, when you're thinking, because we've been talking about this for a long time, if you talk about doing it over multiple years, it's going to keep adding more expense to it. But I'm saying like with the 700,000 just to remodel, I'd rather try to find out the money to make a, build a new one. But if
You're
somebody
probably
that
talking
knows,
about almost $6 million for a new one.
I can dream. I like the idea of seeing how much it would be and how they can utilize the space, reducing some of that, like you were talking about, in the middle of the room. It takes up a large amount of space there. The checkout counters, I know they can get they're smaller computer desk and availability, which needs to be updated anyway, because I think there's only about 4 computers in there that actually use. And then I would like to see that, and maybe we upsell it, give it plastic surgery.
And I don't know if our building people go over there and look at it and kind of come up with a rough drawing of what it might look like, taking out some of this. And I know the carpet stuff that's got to be replaced. And
Yeah.
So the building's about 5,000 square feet. You're talking about a $50 square foot remodel to get it to 250. I mean, you're going to spend a huge portion of that just on carpet and paint.
I'd like to add an additional line item here for the library facelift, remodel, whatever we want to call it, at 400,000
Okay,
as an additional option.
okay.
I could go along with that, because I know 250, it's not going to work, to be honest with you.
I don't have a clue.
I'm just afraid I don't want us to rush into a decision when the city is really about to take off on growth. And we're going to have to be thinking about the police department and the court needs this building. So we need to think about the needs across the city instead of just the needs of the library. How are we going to move around? We really need to talk about this more and not rush into it.
Well, that's a strategic plan.
I wish Katie was still here so she could say strategic plan again.
But, vote.
Yeah,
That's it right
add
there.
add a line item for that.
So it's
Then
added.
Email it to us.
Yeah, and that'll be, we'll do 18 instead of 17 items, no problem. For a facelift of the library. The next is restroom houses as part of the Chastain Trails. They have discussed with us donating that entire 216 acres for public trail systems and not held by the HOA. And they are building parking as part of their project. They're not building restroom houses. And so I would like to build restroom houses at the trailhead, one on each side, as part of that as it comes in.
Didn't they originally say they were going to build it?
Mm.
Restrooms?
I thought they did too.
I thought they did.
Not in any conversation I've had with them.
Where we hear that at? Because I heard they were going to.
Or we were led to believe that, or it seems like we were told that.
Yeah,
I probably know where you got that impression. And that was not the conversations I've had with them.
okay.
With them, it has been they would donate the property and build the parking.
So you,
I maybe thought that was included in it, that we were talking about it, because I'm sure the restrooms came up during that time.
so this wouldn't be really ready to build in this coming budget year.
No.
This is the future.
This is allocation of projects.
Yeah.
I'm looking for direction from
Yeah,
the
okay.
commission on what you want to do and what the priorities are, so that we can go down that list and execute how y'all see fit.
They haven't
We
even
may
had
not have
houses
access to
yet.
those trails for 2 years.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It would be pretty long.
they haven't even started building yet. have they?
They're
No.
planning to start in the spring, so it would be probably 3-year timeline, to be real honest with you, because we'd have to get them designed and wait till they get that far back.
Okay.
Um,
I
All
mean,
right.
At this point, I'd be fine with striking it.
That could be number 18. I'm not a one.
I
What's the
mean,
lowest?
yeah, you
isn't
can
it?
put it as your lowest rated one.
Okay.
So-
So 18 being the most important and 0, 1 being the least. Okay.
So 1 will be the least important, 0 is if a project's a no-go for you.
Okay. Well, they're eventually going to have bathrooms out there. We've all get it
Yeah,
there, but I
if
think
it
it
goes
should be
public,
low on
If it goes public, that we'll need them.
yeah.
So,
I think once they get built, we'll get that.
the next is the Greenway connection to Edgemond Road. This is a big project that we've talked about for a long time. It would be transformative for the city. Again, it's a multi-year project that I would like to break up in multi-year bites, starting with design and then acquisition of the property and fundraising and then a build. So when you look at this, I would think, call it a 5-year-ish goal. But before we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on design, we need to be committed to do it. The next is the mechanic shop that we've talked about.
Can we pause real quick on the Greenway? Can we add another item for lighting on the Greenway? I know there's a big movement on campus right now that they want it. They did a petition. They never gave it to us, but I know they did one. And living right next to it, it is really dark in the morning when they're out there walking.
They're not really supposed to use it until sunup and sundown.
Is it not open?
It is open
24/7?
24/7.
It is, but we don't encourage.
Okay.
I will add it.
As a
It is-
wish list
It is a
item?
huge number, which
Yeah.
is why it was never added before.
There used to be some out there sporadically, I know.
There's some
I
at
used to walk.
the vet park, and we'll have to look around.
There's some at the Morning Point over here it goes back and forth whether it's private or not. We've looked into it with EPB to do lighting and Wi-Fi. Their number was like 2.1 million.
Years
Yeah.
ago,
Hmm?
several years ago.
Yeah, like 5 or 6 years ago.
So that number's going
Um,
close to 4.
We've done a lot of research lately on some solar stuff for parking lot lighting and stuff.
Mm.
If we open up the canopy in there, there could be potential to have a solar option. But yeah, you're still talking several $100,000. And
And if you do solar, you're cutting out the trees, which is why you're on the greenway, because then the sidewalk's blistering hot.
I think there's also been a concern from a security perspective
Yeah.
as well. So,
There have,
I mean, if you're gonna put lights on it, then they need to have some type of, if you will, a call box where they can call if there's an emergency.
Like the River Park does?
Yeah. Is that an antiquated technology? I mean, everyone has a cell phone now.
I've wondered
I
the
feel like
same
it
thing.
probably is.
I don't know. When people run, do they always take their phone with them though?
Yes.
yeah,
Every person I
listening
know
to music or
tracks
tracking their
music,
run.
Oh, forget
distance,
that,
speed,
scratch that one.
et cetera.
it's on my phone.
But we will add it, and I'll send this updated list out
Okay.
tomorrow. I'll double check some numbers, but I'm thinking like what we pay on the pedestrian lights. Yeah, it's going to be 4-ish million.
At least we'll know how much it costs.
Yes.
We can rank it.
Yep. Airport grant match as a loan. This would be a situation where the city loaned the airport the money for their match, and then they paid us back over time. Ryan and I are working currently. Rates at the airport are going to have to go up, and we're trying to figure out how much room there is to go up. We're we're coming somewhere in the 10 or 15% range this year, and then a increase again next year and probably the year after that, depending on what the market will bear. Either way, that's going to have to happen because there's a ton of work to do out there. So if we chose to loan them the money, as Ryan was saying, we're a year or so out, and the airport could pay it back to us. That's also doable with the auditors. So I'm gonna put it out there too, on which way y'all want to go.
Yeah, so, I had sent you an email about my recommendation,
Mhm.
which apparently
It was,
Ryan, you didn't like because I said 25%.
and our opinion was that was pretty, that our thought process is currently we're about 10% under market. So there's room for a 10 to 15% increase this year. 25 felt way too big. And our thought was to do it over, say, 3 years. If it's 10 or 15% this year, 10% again next year, maybe 5 or 10% the year after that, to generate some more funds. We do need to go up. I just think 25% in a year is a big bite.
Yeah.
Well, Ted hit them with 30% and that about broke everybody's back. So I
Yeah.
would agree with an incremental.
Yeah.
I think
increase.
if we're going to do something at the library, and I think we had the conversation when we were over at the Chestnut Hall, people said, well, we haven't gone up, I may not like it, but I'm willing to pay it. I think is what I heard. And I may be mistaken, but maybe it's not 25. I could
Think
settle,
about
I
the
could settle
airport.
for 15.
It was pretty split. About half the room said they'd stroke a check for pretty much anything. The other half said that they were broken if it went up $1. It's the same situation we end up in with the fuel truck and that sort of thing.
But they definitely need a fuel truck.
Yeah, but if we don't want the airport to improve, we have to have, you can leave it flat. We just won't improve the airport.
And
I think
maintenance will
that,
get in the way.
I think that what I heard is that they want it improved.
Yeah.
We're not going to take it out of the general fund because you can't pay it back, probably. I mean, and I'm not picking on you, Ryan.
Well, the thought I have about that is, I get the idea of a loan. Obviously, my preference would be that it's a gift that doesn't have to be repaid because that would obviously offset some of our rate increases where we would be using those rate increases to pay the gift back, obviously. So we'd be a couple years out from obviously reaping the rewards of making a rate increase. The last time I did a market analysis to see where we stood with our competition, we were within the 10% range, which is kind of where I came up with that number. I think if you're too aggressive too fast, you're going to have an adverse effect where people are, the majority, or I should say more of their budget is going to be used for hangar rent. So they're going to choose to fly less, and in turn, it's going to sell less fuel. So there's two sides to the coin. I see both, but to me, if you go too aggressive too quickly, it'll have an adverse effect.
Absolutely.
And see,
Yep.
one thing I look at too is when you go up, and it's, you got to go up. They want to see where the money's going to. I mean, physically be able to see.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot easier sell if you tell the users, tell the tenant base that this
Yeah.
is what you're going to get in return, rather than
Actually,
just
give-
pay us more money and you never see anything mature
Right.
from it. That's what they're going to get in return. It's a lot easier
That's
sell.
pretty much what I
So-
think about the Greenway.
So
too.
a 15% increase, say 350 is the average or the rent of one of the hangars.
Right.
So you're talking about $52 a month
Mhm.
for one increase. And if you do it at 10, it's 35. And maybe we'll look at 12 this year. I just don't think 10 is enough to really, for us to make a dent in what we really need to do at the airport. Sorry, I
When
mean,
you take
No,
the 52 plus times the 12
Mm.
and what they're already paying, that's going to be like a large, increase.
Yeah, it,
Versus the 10 or 12,
Yeah, so
you
12.
know. Thank you, ma'am.
way you don't.
mine wasn't as nice.
Oh, yeah, she's got it all the way up. Oh, this is how much, let's see. Okay, Bob Hager.
12.5% would be $39,000.
I had went ahead and made this because I wanted to support a rate increase to pay back a loan from the city. I don't think we'll have citizen approval for a gift because not enough citizens use it. But I think they will forgive us for making a loan that the airport's going to pay back. And I had done 25 with the thought that the airport could pay it back in 2 years. And the 42 was the more aggressive to get the money back within a year.
But to Ryan's point, everybody's going to say, okay, I can't afford to buy fuel. I just,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or I'll move somewhere else.
I certainly understand the sentiment behind it, but yeah, I mean, I have, just to be completely honest, a 42% increase, that's really strong. I certainly, I know we'd get a lot of kickback. That'd be a real hard pill to swallow to increase rates that aggressively at one time.
So with 25% increase, did you say we had a waiting list to get a hangar?
We do. As most airports do, which I'll mention, every airport around here has a waiting list of similar to what we have. But I still feel like we need to be within the market average to some degree. If we're almost double what everybody else is, that
They're going to go elsewhere.
the demand would definitely decrease.
Are you saying a 25% increase would have us double everyone else?
A 42%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 42%.
There also is some strategy doing it over multiple years, whatever the increment is, but let them know now. We're going to get to X price over the next X number of years. And those that maybe aren't flying as much as they want, but haven't broken down and sold the plane, have some time to go that route. And the ones that charge me anything you want, I'm going to stay, can plan it out. That feels like incrementally with a very loud projection of we're going to be at whatever it is in X number of years would be the route I would support.
Because I think, I know we have people out there with hangars in their planes and they're not flying,
Right.
right?
There are. I will say the majority of people that we have are regular flyers.
Yep.
I mean, you're
I
always
agree.
going to have the outliers that are the weekend warriors per se that come out on a weekend, or the fair weather flyers. You're always going to have that. But I will say, I do feel like in the past year or so, we've gotten it to where we have people who do fly more frequently rather than just having a hangar full of garbage. They have an airworthy airplane that they do utilize.
Because I'm for the airport. I wanted to see it succeed. I want to see us get some of
Absolutely.
the stuff we want. That's why I'm, having this conversation with you. I know it's,
Absolutely.
I could look at a lower increase, but
Mhm.
we have to get there sooner or later.
Right.
Multiple year. But people who are not flying, they're not doing us any good.
Right.
I mean, I hate to say it like that.
Yeah.
So I hope you're flying.
A lot.
And I think that because they're not flying, they're not buying fuel,
Right.
oil, or whatever they need to have to fly. And I think we need to have conversation with people like that.
Well, I've been in favor for quite a while about billing someone for fuel. So let's say you're a member of a country club. You get a $100 food bill every month, whether you go and you eat there or not. You're paying $100 a month for food. I think we ought to do the same thing with fuel. Bill them $100 worth of fuel, and if you use it, you take that as a credit. But if you're not buying any fuel, you still have to pay $100 a month.
Can
Yeah,
we really
I'd-
do that?
I'd have to see how that would work. Frankly, I don't know how that would work at a public use airport. I'd have to see how that would work, and I'd also have to see how we would go about monitoring that.
Yeah, there's two sides to that. One is it legal? I mean, blatantly, is it legal? And I don't know. I'll have to get with Sam, and I'm sure it's a very specific question that he's going to have to do some research on. And then to Ryan's point, the backside of it is how do we deduct it back out without going tail number by tail number every month to see who bought 8750 in fuel versus.
Which you put your tail number in the computer when you go pump fuel, so it's already there.
I think
So
getting the reports out of it's the issue.
Yeah, so you do put the tail number in. I would have to see on our end how we would pull that report. I mean, we can obviously pull receipts and stuff like that. How it would generate a report based on tail number, I'd have to inquire with Fuel Master to see how that would work. Because
I'm just saying for you, it's going to generate more income.
Right.
It's going to keep people flying.
Yeah, yeah, it's like Wayne says, we'd have to just see, you know, how Sam would recommend it. Because frankly, I don't know. I'd have to check with T-Dot Aeronautics and see what they have to say about it. I don't know the legalities of that at this
Okay.
point, but
Let's
it is.
I think
look
that's
into it.
something
Good
we need to
suggestion.
look at.
Yeah.
Could not generate some type of fundraising or activities that can be open to the public that they can pay for, you know, or the families or something, some type of, you know,
We can look at some of those.
I mean,
People that aren't in aviation aren't overly enthusiastic about fundraising at aviation.
Well, and I will say this about our airport. We're not getting commercial operators here. We're not getting small freight operators here for one reason. We don't have an instrument approach.
Yep.
And so we've got to fix our airport so that we can draw the moneymakers in, because until we get that instrument approach, we're losing out on lots and lots of money.
Yep, we have to finish our layout plan and the additional tree clearing and
Yeah, so
then get approved.
So what I'm saying is we have to look at the long-term strategy here. We can't just say, okay, well, this is our one-year strategy and that's all
Right.
we're going to focus on.
yeah, and I do honestly feel that we're taking the right steps. I mean, we're getting that direction. The ALP is going to be a huge help with that to determine, instrument approach and whatnot. Unfortunately, it's just that TDOT's timeline of, that 3 to 5 years. But I do honestly feel that we're taking the right steps.
Yeah, I
get
think
those-
you are. I
those
think you're
steps.
taking the absolute right steps.
We're in the process. The process is a decade,
Yeah.
which is frustrating for all of us.
Well, I can tell you, we have made a lot of progress and since Ryan has been there and Wayne's been the city manager, so I'm appreciative of that. But I don't want to keep $9,000 in the bank account
Right.
for the next 5 years.
Yeah, and I fully agree that there is an increase that's needed. I mean, it was probably needed 2 years ago. Just, when you look at our financials, we are struggling to stay afloat at times, so a rate increase is certainly justified. I just feel like it needs to be within market rate at a point that it's not gonna, hurt the users and hurt activity and whatnot.
Ryan and I will put together an approach on the increase.
Yeah.
how far along are we from getting the instrument navigation that you're talking about?
It's 5 years to complete the study roughly. There'll probably be 2 to 3 years of additional tree clearing after that. So call it 8 to 10 years.
So the one that's broke, that they never fixed, didn't we have one?
No, it's not
Oh,
that.
I'm thinking of
Mm,
something
this
else.
qu-
Never
this-
mind.
We've never had this.
Yeah,
Okay. no,
this would be
would be-
entirely new. Yeah, airport's never had it before.
What's the ballpark deadline for that grant?
As far as timeline,
Mhm.
they haven't given us one yet, but it's a 5-year grant from the time you start to the time you have to finish. It's 5 years. So we haven't actually signed the grant. We haven't started anything.
How long do we have to sign it?
They haven't indicated. Our project manager's just been inquiring where we're at with it in conjunction with Garver. And I've told him, the last update I gave him was that we're doing project estimation, stuff like that. Just still on the initial steps to determine that. So once we find that out, then we'll be able to start the grant. Then it's a 5-year timeline.
And we cannot sign to accept it until we're giving them the check for the match. Is that how it works?
Pretty much,
That-
yes.
That's kind of scary. We got to figure out what we're doing
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you
Is
know
the,
when
is the airport committee still meeting?
They are. We haven't had a meeting since the new year yet, but I would suspect we'll have
And you're
one.
gonna let us know?
I will.
Okay.
Yes, I will. I'll send an email to each of you.
Did you,
And- I'm sorry.
did you say when the last rate increase was?
I would have to go back and look. I want to say it was 2018, roughly, somewhere in there.
Go ahead, Morgan.
To bear in mind, this grant is job creation, and depending upon who that second tenant is, could determine the number of jobs that are being created.
Absolutely.
Moving on, the airport park, my recommendation would be to wait until we get the layout plan completed and then figure out where to put the airport park. I have a new library on here estimated at $5 million.
Excuse me one sec, if I can interrupt you. For the commissioners, I've made a copy of an area, and this is my idea. This is an area that I have suggested as a site for the airport park. We own the land. It's a fairly flat piece of land. When you and I initially talked about it, we talked about $800,000 as the figure. But I look at the numbers tonight and we're at 1.5 million. Why the double?
So about $500,000 in playground equipment, based on some of the pricing from Little Debbie. About $500,000 in a bathroom house and pavilion. And then about $500,000 in earthwork and moving the fence so that it'll fit.
Well, the restrooms at Chastain Trail are 300,000.
They're not pavilions. They're simply restrooms.
But, well, let's just say my point is, I personally feel like we're much closer to an $800,000 figure than a 1.5 million. Because what I'm envisioning with this part, obviously restrooms, playground equipment, but nothing to the standard of Little Debbie. I mean, we're not asking for oatmeal cream pies. We're just asking for, and these airports are all around the United States. And I would encourage all the commissioners, go look at Greenville, South Carolina. Greenville has done a beautiful job. The playground equipment is aviation themed. And it's designed to inspire. But my point is, we need a park on the east side. The kids over there need something closer. I think this would be unique. I think it would be interesting. I think it would be a whole lot of fun for the kids. I can envision, a speaker where they can listen to the Unicom frequency. They can listen to airplanes as they watch them fly over. So I think we can build this park for a whole lot less, especially with us owning the land. We obviously need to cut a path in to the site. We need to put some parking in, bathrooms, playground equipment, but I think it can be done for significantly less.
So-
What group are you looking at for like the playground? Because I know I helped to raise money and things for the playgrounds for schools, for East Hamilton and Appleton, and different companies that you can use. Sometimes they'll match the grant for like building a playground. Okay, like you're saying, like Playcore did, and so if we put in 90,000, they'll do 90,000 or whatever, because their incentive is they have grants, and the places where they get their equipment from that makes it, sometimes it gives grants. So there's avenues there that will help bring it out. I mean, you could put in a real nice playground for a whole lot less than that, the million.
We haven't been able to get grants for this
We've
stuff.
not qualified. There's no sidewalk connectivity in that location. And again, I'm just going on the pricing for the parking lot we're about to build, the playground equipment from Playcore that was purchased for Little Debbie Park, and the pavilion at Little Debbie Park as a basis. Could I be off? Absolutely. Do I think it's 800? Not a chance.
Yeah, because I
And-
know we're
and
not using, we're not using the range out there, are we? The old range, the police range? Are we
Public
still
Works and
using that?
ED.
The one at the airport or the
Yeah,
other?
one at the
airport.
Yeah, that one's, no.
No,
No
and
longer.
To
No longer.
touch on what Debbie was saying, so Playcore does do playground grants. They do them about every quarter,
yeah,
at least towards the end of the year, heavy in October, November. They do a 50-50 match grant where their retail on a playground is 150. Well, that's retail. They'll knock 50% off towards the end of the year to get it out of their
Yeah.
inventory. So they do 50-50 grants. Sometimes it's quarterly, what's not selling. Definitely end of the year, you can get structures for 50% off, but installation stuff is
But they're not going to be
standard price.
typically
Aviation.
aviation themed.
Right.
No.
It's
That's
going to be
the-
leftovers.
okay, what about, I'm just throwing this out, because I'm just doing it from a more educational standpoint, what educator, we use in playgrounds and things. But even like, I know this is gonna be specific with the aviation theme, but I know that Blue Cross Blue Shield, they don't do it just for schools, they do it for cities, they do it for all kinds of different
That's
things.
who we've pursued at the Switch and have not gotten it yet.
Okay,
And they're not of this magnitude.
The only concern I have at this point is it's not easy for people who fly into the airport to get there.
Yeah.
Either you have to drive all the way around,
mhm.
and if anything, to me, until you get the hangar or the new terminal building built, we do it, that would, and honestly, I would like to see it closer to the terminal building versus over here. I know it's more work and stuff, but I'm not opposed to a playground out there. I think it's probably, we need it eventually. I'm just not so sure that right there.
It needs to be closer where it's easy access to the
It
terminal.
needs sidewalk connectivity.
Yeah.
I'm not keen to it being right next to our gun range either.
No, it's not there anymore.
Well,
It's across the
it's
street.
across
The
Across
new,
the street,
yeah, the
yeah.
new one is.
So I'm thinking it needs to be closer to, like I said, the new terminal.
Wouldn't you
They can
still
go in
hear
and eat and go.
when they're shooting at this
Absolutely.
location?
Oh, yeah.
you can hear it.
I can hear it at my house where I used to
I
live.
mean, and I like the sounds of America, but I don't know about when children are out on playgrounds.
Yeah,
Right.
so the time of use of the gun range, and the time of use kids are gonna be out there, not really likely to be much of an issue.
Well, we have agencies using it. Don't we have a lot of agencies
It-
that
it
come
would
and
be
use
a
it for
compliment.
training?
Would
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
you
But that's
have,
for
you
the
have
old-
nighttime
that's for the
shooting and
newer
daytime
range.
shooting.
We're not using the one on, you're not using the one on the airport anymore, are you? I think it needs to be, build the terminal and that should be adjacent to it. I mean,
Well,
be to be more conducive.
But I don't think we're gonna be building a terminal, just to be real frank.
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking at a new terminal, $5 million. Where in the world are we gonna come up with $5 million? It ain't gonna happen.
We need to get that instrument.
You know,
Again,
we've got a pig, but we need to put lipstick on the pig.
Yeah.
Is there any place closer up towards the main terminal building now?
No, because that's where hangars need to go in the future. The only location the city owns in that area that would be more conducive would be at the corner where you pull in where
Where
we have
that-
those.
We tore that house down.
Yeah, right
House.
there.
But it's
And-
not technically on the airport, but it is on sidewalks and it would, that would be the area that would be available now that would check a few more boxes.
Yeah.
I mean,
The only other
honestly,
id-
it's city owned, so is the airport. I mean, you get that connectivity with the Epsom Pike to the little playground area and then over to the
Right.
airport.
Yeah, the only other idea I have, it's just kind of a wild off idea, is if you were to like subdivide the parking lot. The parking lot that we have is far larger than we really ever need. I mean,
You got to think in the future now.
right. That's true.
I'd be
It's
afraid to
rare
go
that
there.
we use more than half of it
Yeah, I
at a
wouldn't want to
time.
give anything up.
But that would be my idea, is just to subdivide it somehow and put it down at the far end or something like that.
So it really wouldn't be just for the people at the airport to use, it'd be any citizen.
Right.
Yeah, any,
So I think over here, it would definitely get a lot more use. And then if we do build a terminal building, you know, at some point, maybe we decide then it's time to move it or something.
Well, that would give, that would,
I'm not opposed to it. I
yeah,
just-
and
That would
I'm
give
not saying
more
this is
space.
the best location. I'm just saying it is
location.
it's a location, the land is flat, we own the land.
So moving on, the next is the new library, which again is the best idea for the long-term plan. These next projects are all essentially tied together, the next three. The new library to then remodel the existing library for City Hall admin to then remodel this structure for the police department. Strategically and very long-term, those are a better option, but it's a lot of money. And it's really going to come down to prioritization of these projects, but think of those together. The idea of addressing Epsom Pike beautification, that would be planting the center and moving the curb line forward, putting, expanding the sidewalks to a shared use path by removing the bike lane. It would be a huge change when you came into the city. Aesthetically, it'd be much more appealing, but it's a very, very big number. And then the other idea is the bond payoff, which is rounded right now at 2.9, and we're paying 1.89%. I would not suggest doing that simply because we're paying 1.89% on it, and I would suggest just paying it out over the term. But anyhow, I will add these 2 extra items. I'll send this back out to the commission.
Can I get you to add one more?
Okay.
I noticed you didn't put the Edgemond Road playground area.
Okay.
I know that that's still a possibility.
You have a guess on what that acquisition would run?
I don't know, but we're looking at a donor buying it, most of the land.
Okay, I'm trying to think. So if a donor came to us and said, I'll buy this if you do a park,
Mhm.
then we come in and say, okay, a park's going to be X amount of money. But if we don't know if we need to buy the property too, what number do I need to put here?
Well,
Do I put $1 million or do I put $1.5 million?
I'd put probably $1.5 million.
Okay.
In case he doesn't donate for that.
I've got one more change.
Good.
Lloyd has 2 L's.
Gotcha.
Oh,
Good catch.
Probably hit it too fast and didn't come all the way up. So anyways, I'll get this up to y'all.
So you want us to go through 1 is our top, all the
20,
way down to 20.
20 is your top. I want to do a simple summation for overall prioritization and the biggest number. So 20 is your most important, 1 is your least important. There's,
That goes against everything I was.
It goes, because you know, the things in 5 and 5 being the lowest.
Did you know that?
I know it's a little
reverse
counterintuitive.
it.
That's going against
But I am
everything I've
asking if
learned.
any of them are
One is number
no-go
1.
for you, just say they're a no-go.
Just or 0, no.
And then once we get this together, week-ish or so, I'll get it back to us, and then I'll share it with you. And we'll use that to set these goals. If you want to decrease the size of the investment, zero a bunch of stuff out, and we can go from there. So that's all I have. And so we will move on. Ladies first. Do we want to start on this end or that?
Go ahead, son.
Well, Debbie, I always go first.
I always, you go ahead.
Okay.
These would be B.
All right. I apologize. I'm running out of stamina for the day. Good job to everyone, by the way. That was very thorough. Looking at the budget on the court, I want to make sure that we budget for 2 judges this year as worst case scenario.
Yeah.
I really think we just need
We
to go ahead and,
are planning that.
okay.
Have you heard any more from Kevin?
He is continuing his leave while he focuses on some personal things. And no, I do not have a date.
Okay. Because I was going to say, if we don't know something by March, we definitely need to budget for 2 salaries.
Yeah.
I'm planning to budget 2 salaries
Yeah.
based
Yeah.
on
Okay.
the information available.
Okay. I'm still working on some ideas about the annual retention incentive plan. I still want to flesh them out a little bit. I have some ideas that are still generous, but they're not quite as exorbitant as I view the current one. So I'll get back to you with that. Some things for the budget. I'd really like no miscellaneous line items this year. I feel like everything that's purchased with tax dollars can be categorized. If it doesn't have a line item, we need to add some line items. Right off the top of my head, last year's there was 2 different miscellaneous funds in the police budget. So I'd like to see more detail on where money's going. I'd like to see us establish some credit card policies this year that only itemized receipts are turned in instead of just the signature sheet. If a receipt's turned in, we need to see what was actually charged and not just the signature sheet. Does that make sense?
are you talking about the missing receipts? Are
No.
you,
Some restaurants, as an example, it'll just be, it was
Yeah, okay.
$50 and you paid. It won't
Okay.
say this meal was $20, this sweet tea was $2.
Yeah, it really needs to be itemized. And like, even like places like Sam's Club, I think there was one receipt where it was just like a pickup order receipt with a number. It didn't say what was purchased. So we really need itemized receipts and a policy. I think that's how Chattanooga does it. I'd like us to see how Red Bank and them do it too, to
I
see if
think
they
we
have
we have
policies.
a recent draft of a credit card policy. don't we?
yeah, we did.
So we'll review it.
Yeah, yeah.
We've
Okay.
got a recent draft. We were actually
Okay.
working to get that together, and it was based on what the other cities are doing.
Okay. This year, I'd like us to budget for some adhesive markings. We might already have it. Except for our police detectives, I want to see every city vehicle and trailer clearly marked with permanent city logos.
So we are marking every non-assigned vehicle over the coming, let's call it 6-ish weeks. We've got to get some generated for some of the departments that didn't have go-tos. The assigned vehicles like mine or Eric's, we're putting tags on the front. Most of them haven't. Mine's sitting on my desk, which says City of Collegedale on it. It just doesn't have a door to marker, and all equipment's being marked. So that is in the works to finish up this budget year.
The problem I have with tags is they can be removed. And I just like something that's a permanent adhesive. It's going to help when we have citizens saying, I think I saw one of your trucks over on this work site. I don't know if it was. Well, I don't have time to get off work and go look and play investigator. And if there's not that problem, it'll also give us better visibility in the neighborhoods. People can say, oh, there's the city, there's my tax dollars at work, if they're seeing that white truck has a City of Collegedale seal on it. I just don't think we need to have
Don't
unmarked
we have,
vehicles.
don't we have on the Public Works, you have a emblem on your your trucks and things?
So
Except for the take-home vehicles and new purchases, yes.
Okay.
we need
so-
to
We
catch
have
up on
about
the new
30
purchases.
seals or 30 graphics to be put on them in the mechanic shop. They've not been put on yet.
Okay, but you've already done that, because every vehicle I've seen, I know with the police cars, when they come through, you got your numbers on there, and it has Collegedale City Police, and then it has.
Not all of them.
That's
It-
on marks, but.
Yeah, there's, a few of those are unmarked, and we are moving right now to do everything minus the couple of assigned vehicles. And the
Okay,
couple
well, the
of
ones-
assigned have
I've
tags.
gone through mine, Hayward, I recognize them, so, okay. Because I was just thinking that they were all, I mean, I could understand, because you have to have some uncover. Like with
And some of the admin vehicles, et cetera, the ones
Yeah.
that are used to go to conferences for PD.
But there is,
But we're moving in that,
Yeah.
in the direction of everything that's not assigned. We have a couple of trailers I noticed that we need to get done and all that.
yeah, I mean, everything that, I have to agree that everything needs to have a symbolic of the city, on there. But I can understand not having every single one of them at one time,
We're working on it.
because you need to go there someplace, especially the detectives, they need to go.
Yeah, I can
You
put
know,
two
that-
detectives, I mean, or if we
Yeah,
end up
that,
with
that,
extra.
they don't want to be announced in the neighborhood, that you're putting them in harm's way, but it defeats the purpose of being a detective, and being able to get in there and try to figure out what's going on.
Something else I'd like us to start doing with our monthly finance reports, I'd like it to include copies of any invoices that are getting paid late with some kind of standardized city form explaining to us why it was paid late, if there was late charges, whatnot. A change I'd like to see is going forward doing one employee luncheon per year for all city employees to be recognized for awards and service milestones instead of having the separate banquets and holiday meals and fifth Wednesday luncheons. I think all of our departments are valued. Let's celebrate all of our employees. It's more inclusive. I think right now we have departments that aren't being recognized, and I think it'd be more cost effective. Staffing, it's no secret that Chattanooga is getting pretty dangerous, and that's going to be coming our way. And I'm afraid if we don't get ahead of that, we can't fix it in hindsight. So I want us to do reorganizing if we have to add one or two police positions in this budget for patrol.
For patrol,
For patrol.
which teams?
Well,
So
I see what you're saying, that you want one for each team, but we can't afford 4 police officers.
I wasn't saying that. I wasn't saying that at all. I'm trying to understand the ask first. And when we're fully staffed, which we hope to be at, the canines will float. They'll work 12 to 12. So there'll be one canine on all the time with each team from 12 to 12. Are you saying in addition to that, you want more patrol?
2 new positions, if we can afford it.
Okay.
Because we need to start getting ahead of all this housing that's going in, or we're going to have a problem.
I don't disagree with you where it shakes out. So where my mind was at is once those houses started going vertical, was having this conversation. Because at that point in time, we will need to up some
Increase.
patrols. It still feels at least a budget cycle early, since they haven't broken ground. But we'll look and see if we can find it.
Police chief, do you feel like you're ready to start growing a little bit, or do you think it can wait?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I need another detective worse than I need another patrolman right now. I'm never going to say no to additional officers on the street. I'm comfortable with where our staffing is currently as it stands this very minute today, but as we continue to grow, then yes, absolutely, I'd like to explore adding additional officers on the streets. But again, my ask this year, my discussions with the city manager has been, as the city grows and our, property crimes and everything grow, I need another detective right now, whereas I need another patrol officer.
My rationale is with the reports that you send us, it's the clearage rate or whatever it's technically called is excellent. And I just don't see us adding to that department right now when right now we have a lot of patrol with businesses, but not as much in the communities. That's why I'm asking for patrol.
I'm asking for
But
a detective.
but at least it's a,
I guess, I'm not seeing a spike in crime or a outbreak in vehicle burglaries or home burglaries or gang violence or violent crime. Again, I think we're comfortable where we're at right now with our current staffing. Again, a year or two down the road, as more housing develops and grows, it may be a different conversation. But I'm never going to say no to adding additional officers to staff, but I would like to think as a police chief that I would be able to explain to you where they need to go, whether you tell me where I need to put them. And right now, I feel like I need one in criminal investigations to support that staff. Because as we continue to grow and responsibilities grow, again, if you're a detective and the state average is, I don't know off the top of my head, but if it's 15 is the state average and our detectives are carrying 40 or 50, even though the clearance rate is exceptionally high, again, that's just a credit to the outstanding work and the efforts that they put in. But that doesn't mean that it couldn't even be even higher with them not having to look at 30 or 40 cases in front of them all the time.
do they have other responsibilities other than CID?
Sergeant Perko does, yes.
K-9, is he over K-9?
He oversees all the support services, K-9, the reserve divisions, over the traffic grant funding. He does a lot of projects for me. He's been working on the block projects for us. So, yeah,
So-
he has a lot of additional leadership or administrative responsibilities outside of just working on cases all day.
May I interject? Do y'all mind? I think that in all the years I've been here and I've worked with the police, I didn't work with the police, but I've been very supportive of it, and as long as, in all of our departments, because I think all of our key people, we've got the finest and making sure they're trained. We've given them the trust. That's why you're where you're at, okay? Because we go back a long time, the time I gave you laryngitis from riding in the car with you, that's the first time I ever rode with a car. What I'm saying is this. Like you said, I have to agree with you. You're the chief. You know, because you work day to day, who you need where, okay? And as we grow, add the people, because we are going to need more. That's just an obvious. We're going to need more police officers but I think we have
And
to
probably
depend.
garbage truck drivers.
Oh, yeah, we're going to need more people altogether. But I think that we have to trust our leaders that we've put in that position. And I know that you talk with Wayne and y'all get together and the people that have to, and then you bring it to us. I think to say, I see the police officers in my neighborhood. Some people may not, but I do because I'm up all hours of the night. I know when they're going through. I know when they're not. I'm just a light sleeper. But I think we need to let him choose who he wants to. And he's asked for a detective. I think that's the route we need to go because he knows what the need is. I know what it's like. I'm a case manager for special ed. I know the difference, and I do well at what I do when I've had 158 on my case and I only have 19 now. I'm in a vacation, but I'm saying that when you have that magnitude of doing that work, that doesn't mean you can be overloaded.
And again, I want to be clear, and to Commissioner Sadler, greatly appreciate it and respect it. We're having a discussion about hiring additional officers, because I think if we go back to the MTS report from several years ago, they recommended then that I think they recommended we needed 5 more then, and that
Yeah.
was, what, 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. So, and we have added some, but I guess hey, I'll take 2 officers all day long, but I just ask that you let me, chief, and decide where I think they need to go rather than dictate to me where they go. And we pulled officers off of the spec ops teams or whatever it was called. We put those officers back in patrol. We have added canines that are circulate flowing through patrol. And so if you give me 2 officers, I'll certainly find a place to utilize the best for the city, but at least one, I need to go upstairs.
Well, Chief, I think we have to listen to you. I mean, you're in this position.
I'm still
If,
meeting. Okay.
you know what the needs are. I'm not opposed to more officers when we need them. But if you feel like we need a detective more, then I think we have to listen to your guidance.
It has been, and I'll try to answer to you this way, right? I have to listen and trust to my people who I have in the positions.
Sure.
And Sergeant Herco and Detective Otaniel, who do an amazing job, have repeatedly requested for the last 2 or 3 years, we need an extra detective, we need an extra detective. And, we've talked about that, Wayne and I have. We've made some moves. We've added some officers. First I needed to get patrol back to where it was. I needed to get those spec op officers back. We wanted to have equal shifts to balance where officers can take leave and go to training and have great adequate coverage on patrol. And we've accomplished that now. So kind of the next piece is to try to fulfill that request that they're giving to me is, Chief, we need some help up here, and here's why. And, my response is the same. Show me the data, show me that it's needed. Wayne and I were talking about that this morning. And, show it to us so I can show the commissioners and show why we need it. And then we can move forward from there. But I'm not hearing an outcry from, or I'm not seeing a necessary need right this second to add a whole bunch more bodies on patrol. Now, again, it may be totally different a year or 2 now. We might be having a different conversation.
How low do our patrol shifts get down to when we have a lot of call-offs?
When we have what?
Call-offs, I'm sorry, sick employees or,
I mean, we're never probably down more than 4 or 3.
4 working every night,
Yeah.
3?
And even if we look at staffing, and if we need to call in an officer to, pick up an extra shift, or if the patrol lieutenant or whoever needs to come in and help cover if that's necessary, then we just make those moves as necessary. But, we've gotten us back to where there's not so much pressure on the patrol guys to where they're not getting beat up if somebody takes a vacation day or a sick day or wants to go to training. We've been good since we've added what we've added and pulled those spec ops guys back from patrol several years ago. It balanced that back out.
Where I'm coming from out of my heart is I really love representing a city where it's safe. I don't wake up in the morning and wonder who got shot and it's going to be on the news like people in another city have to do. And I feel like if that starts pushing our way, we can't get back ahead of it.
I think, I know myself, and I'm sure the chief as well, are also very proud to lead a city that is safe. We're top 10 safest cities in Tennessee, and we share the concern, and we agree with it and believe it's legitimate. It's just at this time, we feel like the CID approach is what is the bigger need. But we do, well, at least but I believe the chief will agree with me, we do believe that this conversation needs to come back up, probably in a year or 2, as those homes start coming along and the population starts to
As the
expand.
homes start coming up, yes, definitely, as we start expanding.
Well, what about a win-win situation? So
I know where he's going. I like it.
2 officers, you get a detective and an extra patrol officer.
fantastic. I mean, I'm never, again, I'm never going to argue with you. Say,
I would hope not.
Yeah, I'm looking to give you more.
I-
personnel. I just,
It's going to be hard on the budget.
I was about to say, so I don't
It'll
know.
be there, but I guess in clarification with Commissioner Sadler and everyone is absolutely, please give me 2 more officers. But I didn't want there to be frustrations if you say, well, we gave you 2 officers, chief, and you put 1 in CID. And that frustrates, I wanted to be very open and upfront with you right now. You know, everything is pointing towards that need. Now, if I come back, and again, this is in progress, so I could come back a month from now or budget presentation and say, you know, we looked at all the data and they can't prove to me that we need another detective. But I think that we do. That's what I'm being told. I have to trust what they're telling me. We're looking at the data and then we can kind of take it from there.
Well, because you've got $100,000 salary with benefits, and then you got a $50,000 car. So, I mean,
The
that's,
prorated cost of a year 1 officer taking 5 years for their upfitted patrol car is $110,000 a year
okay.
currently with benefits and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. And that's at our current pay.
And then a $50,000 car.
Well, I broke that up over 5 years.
Okay.
I took that upfitting
Sure,
over
okay.
5 years.
Has our revenues increased that much to cover the cost of this?
We have to get into them.
Yeah.
But thank goodness we did not hit the recession that everyone expected us to in the fall. We did not. Numbers are up. And by up, I mean flat is what they're initially saying. We have to get everything compiled. Off the top of my head, do I see an extra $225,000 to throw in PD for officers? No. I could be wrong as soon as we compile everything, right? We have to get all of our lists together.
This is why I'm being a little bit more conservative when we have things coming up like street scanning. I really rather look at personnel needs for something core instead of a street scanner. Not to pick on that specifically, but
Well,
those
I'll-
expenses add up.
They absolutely do. In my mind, it's not only PD is a core responsibility, roadway condition is a primary responsibility, and fire is a primary responsibility. And so we try to balance those as our main municipal programs.
Well, and you know my ask, my write-up to you about Public Works,
Mhm.
where I think every Public Works outside of management, from that perspective, needs an increase. And we've kind of stepped all the way around it for the last 8 years, I believe.
So the last few years, we have tried to bring everyone up to real close to market analysis based on the study that was done 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Using Department of Wage and Labor numbers. And we do have some opportunities in Public Works that we need to take care of, specifically on CDL As and Bs, and we need to break those up. And I would say that Public Works, pretty much all of our blue collar workers are in a real similar situation. We did pretty well with the help of the commission getting us up to market. 3 years ago, 80% of our employees were not up to market. Now we're much closer. We're in, as people get more experience, early in your career, you might be a hair under. So we've got some more, but we're about where we need to be. The problem has been is market has continued to shift too, because all of the other cities have turned around and said, 3 years ago, we didn't struggle to get PD applicants. We did not, because we were one of the higher paying agencies. Right now, we're one of the lowest paying agencies, and we don't have the sign-on bonus that the sheriff's department offers. I would articulate that our sanitation folks that work under Andrew are spectacular. That's one of the hardest positions we've had to fill. There's just not very many people there. And so I guess it's a long rambling way to say, I agree with everything you say for Public Works, but I extend it to our court clerks, our admins, PD, Public Works, et cetera. I do believe as a management team, we're on market and don't need to do anything bold. But I do think for our blue collar workers, we need.
And I'm
to
not
look at
trying to ignore the other court clerks and other staff. I just know that we depend upon Public Works.
Mhm.
And I've heard about police department where they're leaving for better opportunities and more pay. And we've had some people in public works do that as well. I know some of them have come back as well, but if we don't really do something to keep people here without them looking over the fence and see what's better, I don't know that market value is enough
Adequate.
these days.
I do not disagree with you. The only thing that I would say is I think the same thing applies to our admin team, our admins, to our court clerks, et cetera. All of those blue collar positions are being squeezed, and they're very difficult to find. Did we accidentally hijack you?
You're fine. I was waiting.
Okay.
In that same breath of the adding some police possibly, one of the ways that I was looking at bringing in some money is I'm still for coming out of the Small Cities Coalition. I personally don't see the benefit from the partnership. After watching the presentation at Signal Mountain, I'm still not impressed with it. I feel like it's for organizing some city manager luncheons and writing a few position papers. I feel like we all know how to call Nashville, and sometimes hearing from an elected carries a lot more than a political mouthpiece, respectfully. And I feel like you could have your lunches with the city managers. Y'all don't need somebody to facilitate that every month or every 2 months.
I disagree strongly. I feel like that coalition and the group working together on the legislative initiatives is critically important to the role of city manager, to have those resources at hand with the other city managers, to have the voice with the elected officials. It's just when you speak for 60 or 70,000 citizens of Tennessee versus 12,000, the call gets picked up quicker. But we can agree to disagree. I just firmly disagree.
That's where I'm at for my colleagues, though, is I'm still opposed after watching a presentation. I'd like us to halt right now on filling the Parks and Rec position. I see a lot of overlap right now in that department for Public Works and the library until we get, because Public Works already does parks maintenance, and we have a lot of duplicate programming at the library. I'd like us to see reports on who we're servicing before we proceed on fully staffing that department again. Moving
I don't know
on.
that it would be real easy to manage a lot of children with just one person.
May I make a suggestion? Because I've worked on both. I've worked on Parks and Recreation and I've worked on the library. And the reason they do some overlapping is because of shortage. So they geared together to come up with some fine programs. I do believe she needs another person in there because I've been in there and I've seen how things operate. There's more to it. So I want to disagree with you on that. I understand where you're coming from.
And for
But I
me, it's more
think
of, do we want to continue to pay for it if it's not for Collegedale? Because the library is contractually obligated for the programming. So I feel like we're kind of paying two people to do the same thing.
No.
There's
we're
a
not.
ton of programs that would disappear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, I understand from being there at the beginning and when we combined and when we, hired and everything, I've seen a big growth. And I think we were worse off years ago. Now we see an increase. I think that Christine does a wonderful job, but I think also that she needs an assistance there because it takes two people really. And as for overlapping in public work, somebody who's forgive me for saying this, but somebody's job is to drive a truck, can't fill in her job if she's out or whatever. They're maybe underneath the same department. That's like being in a hospital and saying the janitor's going to take over and do surgery today.
I'm talking about more like the classification that it's not Parks and Rec. I mean, I get that she does programming
Yeah,
in
but
parks, but she's not doing like Parks and Rec. That also involves landscaping and whatnot.
But that's why it's falling underneath there. What she's doing is basically what she was hired for and how we did, we agreed
So-
before.
Could we rebrand to recreational programming? Because it sounds like this is simply a branding conversation.
Could that go down to a full-time and a part-time?
I don't think so. I don't think
Or
you could
maybe a full-time
effectively
and
do
two
it.
part-time? So we're not paying benefits?
You're not going to be able to get
No.
part-times.
You're going to have, you won't get the quality and stuff because of,
I don't see a way to do it that way.
no.
But to the confusion on parks being in the title, that's a conversation that could be had.
And there's a lot of cities. Chattanooga was Parks and Recreation. I worked in a community center. I wasn't even in the parks, but we had separate division that was our parks. But as a whole, we covered Parks and Recreation. So if there's something wrong with a park, they're going to call me before they call Public Works.
Right, and that's what I'm saying is you don't do that part of it.
But
They
I'm
do.
able to answer the questions, and if it's not a huge issue, then Public Works doesn't even have to bother with it. I can answer the question and kind of take it off of Jamie with all the bazillion things that she already has to do with Public Works. I'm able to go ahead and answer it. And I do events in parks because I don't have a facility to, if I'm not at the Commons, then my events are going to be outside or they have to be inside here. So I'm outside as much as I can be. But if you saw last year, a lot of our stuff gets canceled because of weather. So, but saying that I can do it all on my own, I can't even do it.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm
One
saying I don't
staff.
know if we want to continue the amount of programming we're doing when most of it is not being participated in by Collegedale citizens.
I think there's some avenues that we brought up before, because she's doing the survey. And then there's a possibility too, that, for example, a program that you only offer for one night, there's not enough seating, why not do that? And if it's a very popular program, why not do it more than one time?
Right,
You know.
or open up to citizens for the first week and then community for the
Community
second.
for second week or something like that. And that way you're drawing in, you're still helping the people and still bringing money into the city, because if people come in and they eat when they come and stuff, and or they shop or whatever. I guess my philosophy is that, and I'm going to just use an analogy like I have. Okay, I'm a behavior specialist, and was a leader for exceptional ed. A child requires more, so somebody that has a child that needs special ed attention or something, they're going to come to me. I'm going to be the expert in that field, but then I'll carry it up to the principal, whatever that needs to be done, or set up the meetings or set up. And I think that's with our leaders here, our directors. They know what they need. I can't tell that we have not used our time and their time wisely, that we've made decisions based on facts, not fiction, and we've tried to project. I'm all for preventive, thinking ahead. But I think that we're wrong to try to, I think we need to remember what our responsibilities are, in which it is to bring up these questions and things like that. But at the same time, we have to, we hired these people for a reason. We hired them upon their responsibilities, their qualifications and so forth. Let them do their job. That's what we pay them for. And if they need more help, then that's what we have to look at, come up with the funds to give them that more help, just like you were talking about the two officers. At the same time, giving police chief the right to select where he needs them to go, because he would be the one to know, I guess it's just determining. I'm very sensitive with Parks and Recreation and the library, because I know where it was and where it's come from. And I've been on both those fields more than once. Okay, I've had the privilege of working there. And I think and it may be me, and I do apologize if I'm taking this wrong, but I feel like that we need to give their due, respect them.
I don't know where you're coming off with the fact versus fiction. I don't know what that's in
What I'm
regards
coming
to.
for, I
So
think
we'll move
maybe
on
it's-
about
Maybe I
that.
want to say facts for speculation. I understand the questions that you have, I think are great. I think what you've brought up is great. I really do. And I appreciate that. But I think at the same time, how we deliver it could be
I think
offensive
you
at
and I
times.
have to accept that we're two different people and we're on this commission in different capacities. I like to ask questions and then come to a conclusion.
I do
A
too.
lot of the time you like to ask, what do you want me to vote for?
No, that's not what I am. I've never done that. You may think so, but I never have.
Okay.
I people believe me. I do a lot of research. I do a lot of background. Maybe I don't come out as, like you say, personally, I like to take in everything at one time
In
and then
the,
analyze.
in the essence of time, because
Let's
we've
go.
almost been here 3.5 hours.
Let's
Can
move on.
we, is there a way for us to do another special meeting on a workshop?
I'd like to just power through and get done tonight. If there's additional feedback afterwards, as we try to go brisk, we can add it to next month's. On this
I would
subject,
agree. I think we need to power through.
yeah,
We're
on this
almost
subject,
finished
my,
anyway.
my opinion is the department doesn't function with one person, and I intend to hold the interviews tomorrow that are scheduled and include 2 positions in the next budget. And as we go back and forth and do our budgets, we can discuss that further then.
Oh, that sounds
I'm almost done, Tim, with my
Okay.
list. I wanted to talk about, instead of the city providing free garbage cans for newly constructed residences, I'd like the builders to be responsible for purchasing and providing them. I think we should continue to replace them at no charge when they've been damaged due to normal wear and tear. But if somebody's building a new subdivision, I think they should be on hook for the can, just like for building the roads and sewer. I don't think we should be subsidizing that.
We can look into that and see what others do. I don't think that's common practice, but we'll get some data to make a decision.
Okay. I'd also like to see numbers on outsourcing our landscaping.
What aspects of our landscaping?
To get the city, instead of hiring another landscaper, contracting out the landscaping services, maybe 9 months out of the year, instead of hiring a 4th one, we have a contract where people come in with their trailers, they knock it out in a couple of days, and they come back when it needs it again.
Every aspect of landscaping?
Well, not being an expert in landscape, I don't know what all is entailed. So if you could get a list and decide what packages might be attractive, I'd like to look at options.
I'll see what we can get. Where we draw that line is going to be nearly impossible on what is in and what is out. In general feedback in the industry, minus special situations like very high-end maintenance of the Little Debbie Park, the hill up on Bowen Trail, et cetera, the municipally, when you hire an outside company, they do great for a year. Worse, the second year, you fire them. The third, you start the process over, and it's a constant revolving door of really poor landscaping. But I'll work with Eric and try to come up with some way to cage that. I mean, because that you're talking about over 8,000 hours, man hours a year.
Well, I don't think you do a contract more than 1 year at a time because you need to give them incentive to be signed again.
It is very laborious to bid something like that and vet
A
it.
contractor that would take on that scale, that amount of work is going to be hiring people for that job. They won't do it for less than a 3-year contract because they're purchasing equipment. And the 8,000 man hours is not something you just throw on a company. They're hiring people for that. So they would do a minimum of 3-year contract.
I would still like to see what it would look like, what we could get for our money.
Would you try to give me some more details on what aspects, or is it all landscape?
I will do some research for you and
I'm
tell
just,
you.
to get it priced, I need to
Yeah.
know what I'm pricing, and we'll try to figure something out. Okay, is that it?
That's all I'm going to do for tonight. We can do more of me later. Go ahead.
I have nothing further to add at this time.
Okay.
The only thing I would say is I still think we need to look at public works from a salary perspective. Whether that includes the other blue collar workers here as well. I just think that, you see the city based upon coming into it and how it looks. And it looks pretty good. I mean, I have no complaints at it, and I hear a lot of great things from my neighbors. So, and we definitely depend upon them for, being here in the bad weather, cutting trees from storms, and I think that, and maybe it's not the dollar amount you and I had talked about, but I think we need to look at it. So that's all I'm gonna say.
Commissioner Baker?
I'll skip.
Okay. If there's any additional feedback, please email, call, or text, because we are going to start digesting this and are jumping into work pretty soon.
Are you going to send us
Thank
out another thing? with the
Yes,
other-
that'll come out tomorrow morning.
Oh, thank you.
You must be feeling better?
Bless you. Hello, Tim.
I have.
I didn't sleep all that night.
Hey, Andrew, are you still going up to,